All right, folks, good morning. I'm going to call this work session to order. I think, yeah, the clock hasn't been changed here yet. Jim, Miss Markman may need a little help with her. You got it? There may be a problem with the passwords. Okay. Let me get ready here. The first thing we're going to do this morning is the ceremonial presentations. We're going to recognize, where's Tom? We're going to recognize Loy Howard from Tanner Health System regarding the land donation. So, Loy, if you will come up here, we'll recognize you, sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing,
Good.
Mayor?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
It's good to see everyone. We appreciate the opportunity just to make this presentation. Just brief history. This is a tract of land that was bought by the hospital authority, and I have Tim Warren, the chairman of the hospital authority, also here and one of the Tanner Medical Center board members. And this land was originally purchased back in 1985 as the idea of maybe being the site for Tanner Medical Center Villa Rica. And then it was just decided as we looked at growth patterns and looked at investments, now, I guess, 40 years later, we made the decision it was best to be on the present site and have, made many expansions in Villa Rica and are very committed to Villa Rica and really serve a lot of people in this region from our facilities in Villa Rica. So we decided with that situation that we didn't need this land and went ahead and decided to sell this land. And we sold it to Inline Communities so that I think they're going to develop it down the road. And then it turned out, as y'all know so well, there's a lot of rock here, and so there's some of that track was rock, and it turned out we saw an opportunity to donate that land to Villa Rica. We feel strongly about green space. We think green space is important. It's important to health and wellness of a community, and in fact, at our facilities is something that we really emphasize in that recovery process, and also for our employees. So we're just very pleased. Mayor and council to be donating this land and enhancing the green space of the great city of Villa Rica.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and thank you for being here and sharing that with us. It's going to be a great asset to the city of Villa Rica, and we appreciate you doing that for us. Tanner does a lot for the city of Villa Rica in terms of partnerships here. You have a great facility over there. I think it's some $37 million was the last expansion. Am I right?
That's correct.
We're
Yes,
proud
sir.
to have you, have Tanner here, and for the work you do here for Villa Rica. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and we have a lot of exciting plans in the future in our continuing our partnership with the city of Villa Rica.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, do we have Corrine Thornton here today? There she is. All right, Georgia Department of Community Affairs presentation of the Rural Downtown Redevelopment Grant Award.
Well, good morning,
Welcome.
everyone. I'm Karen Thornton with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and it's my honor to be here today. It's very exciting for us because back earlier this year, our agency received an appropriation of $17 million from the General Assembly, and our charge was to use this money for downtown development projects that were transformative and shovel-ready. The shovel-ready part was pretty important because these dollars have to be expended by June of 2024, which, as you know, will be here before we know it. So we did a competitive grant application process, and we were pleased to announce that we were making a $1.7 million award to the city of Villa Rica for a project that will connect downtown to some disadvantaged neighborhoods, really a transformative type project. The work, the engineering that's already gone into this project really told us that this was the type of thing that we wanted to make an investment in. This is a kind of a chance of a lifetime for us as an agency, and we hope that this will be a transformative chance of a lifetime project for Villa Rica as well. So with no further ado, as is our DCA custom, we do have a check to present made payable to the city of Villa Rica for the amount of $1.7 million.
Wow, wonderful. We're gonna do a photo op with this. Let's bring all the council down there to take this photo.
It's actually not legal tender, but.
We need that money. We might run it down to the bank.
Yeah.
Come on over here. All right, good job. Thank you so much. Before y'all go back up, let's do a photo with Lloyd Howard here too. We don't
Can I ask
find
Tim
out-
Warren to join us? Mayor, do you mind?
Absolutely. Let's do this with everybody. Yes, sir. Good to see you. Thank you, sir. All right, and Jim, I don't know what's going on with my tablet, but it's not letting me into any of the civic clerk stuff. Like, it's on, but it's not getting into those. Okay. All right, the first item up, and I don't have any backup material here because I don't have, this is not connected. First item under tab B, governing body, is the 2023 proposed council meetings schedule. We're bringing this early this year. It's a little unusual to have it this early. It's certainly unusual to vote on it this early, but I've had a chance to review it. Thank you. I'm assuming everybody here has as well. Who is going to present this? Were you going to present it? Come on up, Sarah. So, and another thing, are the mics working? Can you all hear? All right. All right, Sarah, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Is that better? So on the cover sheet, I did present the history since 2018. We've done it probably 5 different ways in the last 5 years. And the mayor asked that we reach out to all the council members and find out kind of what the consensus was. I wouldn't say there was a consensus, but I narrowed down what I did hear back to 2 options for discussion purposes today. Teresa, can you pull up the 2 options? That might be easier to look at. It was a separate document. Basically, option 1 is to keep the work session and the voting meeting on the same day, with the work session being at 1 p.m. and the voting meeting staying at 6 p.m. And then option 2 gave some distance between the work session and the voting meeting. So you'd have the work session on the Thursday prior at 4 p.m. and the voting meeting at 6 p.m. on Tuesday like normal.
Okay. So, yes, we have done this a number of different ways. And since I've been on the council and then as mayor, even my first year, we tried a hybrid. We did it half the year on the same day, and then the other half of the year we did the 2 days, and then we've pretty much been doing the same day for the following 2 years. The next year we did a same day, but we did it at 3 o'clock, right? And then that ran too close to the 6 p.m. meeting. With the clerks were having a hard time getting the new the new agenda ready. So we moved it. We tried, let's see if we could do it at 10 a.m., which is what we're doing now. And that has worked pretty good, but it has its challenges in the fact that there are last-minute things that come up in the morning. We're trying to get some things cleared away. And then sometimes if there's a huge break in the afternoon, it just causes some issues with personnel. So what we're proposing here are we have two options. One of them is to do that same day, as Sarah just said, but do it at 1 o'clock. That gives enough time in the morning to take care of any last-minute housekeeping that needs to be done. And it also doesn't run us so close to the meeting that the clerks can't get the new agenda prepared. And then we have the other option, which is to do a work session on Thursday, and then the regular meeting at 6 p.m. the following Tuesday. So I want to open this up for some discussion with council. And does anybody want to be recognized?
Well, I just realized something.
Yes, sir.
So, and I guess I realize this because today's election day, and today's the second Tuesday of the month. And so, in 2023, that would be a municipal election day. And I don't know if there was some consideration of maybe moving the council meeting a week prior or a week after, so not to kind of be on the same day as a municipal election day.
Well, that's not the case, though, because in 2023, that meeting will be on November the 14th, and that cannot be an election day.
Oh, that's right, because it's the first
So
Tuesday.
that was taken into consideration when we looked at the schedule. So it'll be November the 14th.
So how did
These are not
so how did that
perfectly the
happen
second
this week, then?
Tuesday.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, so the way the law is for elections, it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday. Is that right? I mean, it's a weird way to say it. Is that right, David? I think that's correct. The first Tuesday
Okay.
after the first Monday in November.
I see.
For us, some years ago, we're doing the first Tuesday, no matter how it fell, according to a Monday or whatever. And then we moved it to the second one because it kind of conflicted with the county schedule. And we've kind of been trying to ride that the whole time, but
I
it
see.
don't work
Okay.
out perfectly. We made some adjustments. There is a proposed schedule here because it's not perfectly the second Tuesday, because
Oh.
sometimes we have conflicts with school, like the school will be out for a whole week, or, we've just tried to make some accommodations to fit that kind of thing. And there may have been another reason for it. I mean, if there was another conflict, it seemed like there was something other
The
than the
other one was
schools.
February. The meeting fell on holiday, so we moved that one as well.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. So according to like timeanddate.com, the election day would be November 7th, because that's the first Tuesday.
after the first Monday, sure.
I see. I see.
Okay, does that
Oh,
get
that's
you?
interesting.
is that-
Yeah, okay, yeah,
cool.
that makes
All
sense
right.
now.
Anybody else want to be recognized? Mr. Carter?
Very often, even with the 10 a.m. work session, the work session is when we're supposed to iron out and understand the things that are going on for the agenda for the 6 p.m. meeting. So it should be the longest meeting, obviously, but even then, when we get through with that, they have a hard time getting things updated for the 6 o'clock meeting. To move it to 1 o'clock, absolutely is going to give them no time at all. I'd just soon back it up to 9 o'clock. Actually, I'd like to see more time between the two meetings rather than less time.
We did talk with the clerks about that, or staff did. I didn't personally talk to them, but I got the feedback, and they seemed to be fine with the 1 o'clock. They thought they could do that. I'm sure there'll be exceptions, but we'll let anybody weigh in that wants to. But
That-
I understand what you're saying.
That's just for their purposes. Now, for my purpose, when we run across some things in the work session that I hear other opinions from other council members, it doesn't give us any time at all to get together and discuss it over with them between meetings, because you can only do it on a one-on-one basis. So if you come up with something after the fact, after the work session, you don't have any time to have any kind of discussion time with the other council members. Now, I think that's very important. We need to understand what each other's about here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and in the work session, we could try to do a little bit more of that, because you're right, you can't do that except in one-on-one meetings, except when we're seated like this. When it's open and everyone can hear what's being said, you can have some of that, but anybody else want to be recognized? Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, the context on why we're doing this when we aren't early is because at one time, Tom even mentioned me, because we all noticed how long the community development section was taking, said, I don't know if y'all ever want to think about doing that in a separate meeting, because it's almost a whole meeting all by itself, just doing the community development things. And I said, well, we used to actually have the work session, the work session on a different day. Still made for a long meeting if you had a lot of hearings. But he said, bring it up at the, I think, November retreat. Well, I don't think we're having a November retreat. So it got put on here. No, I don't travel near as much as some of y'all do, but nonetheless, I think getting it done early, believe me, I wish that RV was leaving more
Oh,
often.
no. No, I'm good. Everybody knows.
Cruising
I
on
just
down the
flew in.
road. But if you're going to set up vacations and reservations and plan things for the year, I think it's a little bit of an advantage for us to do the calendar before December, because I don't know, if you want reservations for things in the upcoming months, and you want to miss as few meetings as possible. Okay, so there's a number of different options here. I will always believe that there's a problem with voting on the same day on issues, that's the first day that we publicly discuss it, that citizens have a chance to see what we're saying about it. I don't mean just looking on an agenda item, because sometimes those are very vague. And you look at the agenda item, they're trying to read the documents. There is absolutely no time for a news story to be written about what we do here this morning. And for a lot of people who work during the day, they don't have time to watch this video in the morning and even talk to us about what we talked about this morning before we're voting on it that evening. The other thing that has been brought up, not so much from me, but from particular staff, is that we get punchy when the meetings are too long. And this is a long day of meetings. And you don't always make the best decisions when you've already spent 3 hours and 2 hours and somebody wants to get over with, because we're now in our 5th or 6th hours of meeting on a particular day. And I really feel in some ways it's done for our convenience. The other thing is, almost everything, doctor's appointments, if you teach school, if you're in court, if you want to do other things during the day that require work hours, most of those occur between 9 and 4. And it pretty makes that a wash. That day's always gone. You cannot do those things for those. You can't have a regular work schedule at all. For somebody that works, 9 to 4, 9 to 5, a little bit easier to take off the last hour of a day than it is to leave your office in the middle of the morning or the middle of the day. I can't help but feel that the work session starting on 4 o'clock on Thursday, most people are done with doctor's appointments, more citizens can probably come. You can then be somewhere else that evening if you need to, whether it's county business or home business. And it also gives staff not only the news time to cover some of it, but it gives citizens time to talk to you before you vote, and it gives staff time to maybe work out some problems that we have before we vote on it on the following Tuesday. So that'd be a work session starting at 4 o'clock on the Thursday prior, and then Tuesday would be your voting meeting. If you've got a problem with a business person, you've got to figure out some other regulations, and they want to meet with the developer, we still have time to work that out. We have some, office days to get that done and still be able to handle it that month. Thanks.
All right.
You got a hand over here.
Okay, Ms. McCoy.
I was going to say both options seem to work well. I don't really have a problem with any of them. I just have some concerns. One of the concerns is, like Mr. Carter said, with staff, thinking more of staff than us, if a 1 p.m. meeting is going to rush y'all any or be an issue. That would be my one concern with that. My other concern with the 2 days, I agree with what Ms. McPherson was saying, but also I think the mayor and I are the two up here with school-age children, and that's 2 nights a week I'm away from my kids. So that's the other thing I was thinking about with that, is that's going to take away time from family and stuff like that. So those were, either one I can work with. I get the work day. I like the workday, 4 PM, not have to take a full day off. But still, I would rather get this, I see no problem with getting it all done in one day.
Okay. Anybody else?
My thing is do it both on the same day. That's my opinion. I think it works best for especially working people. You know,
Okay.
you don't have to take 2 days off to do this. You know, you got it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but I agree with the same day. So that's my thought.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot because you were
That's
the
okay.
only one that hadn't spoke, so for me to
That's
say
okay.
that. Does anybody else want to be recognized again? I'll make a few comments.
Just a
All right,
clarification.
Ms. McPherson.
No, there wouldn't be 2 days off with at least the option I'm talking about. There might be with some other options, because the voting meeting on Tuesday would be at 6 PM, and the work session would be at 4 on a weekday. I may not have school-age children, but I have grandchildren on a very regular basis, sometimes all day. But it would be 4 o'clock, so it'd be after, yes, it would be after school, after a good portion of the workday, but you wouldn't take a day off. I just wanted to clarify that, at least with the option I was proposing.
Okay. Anybody else?
One other
Mr.
point.
Carter.
Yeah. I don't even know why you put this agenda deadline on here. I don't think we adhere to that at all.
You've made that point several times, Mr. Carter.
Do what?
The truth is, they do try, but you're right. I would say probably at least, half the time there are things that come up after the fact, after these deadlines, and a decision has to be made about whether or not they're going to go on the schedule or wait a month, and they usually end up on the agenda. If they can wait, then they actually do wait. You just may not know that, but I say that every time too. But your point's well taken. I appreciate it. It is the truth. Let me say that we did consult with, I asked that all the council members be reached out to. I think we heard back from everybody. If we didn't, then somehow we probably got some.
We did.
We didn't get it from everybody?
No, we
Okay.
did. We did.
Oh, we did? Okay, good. We also talked with staff, and this was, obviously, this is the staff recommendation. So I think that taking that into consideration, and certainly we've done everything we could to make the public aware of when these meetings are. We broadcast them. You can watch them live on Facebook. You can watch them live on YouTube. You can go back and watch them recorded. We open up every meeting, and we have organized how we do public comments to accommodate. After this work session, we allow public comments so that you can comment on anything that occurred here. And then in our voting meeting, we put those at the very beginning for the purpose of you being able to express any concerns you have from there. We put the schedule out a year in advance as much as we can. We are a little early this year, but I have no problem with that. I didn't mean to suggest I have a problem with it. It's just we don't usually take it up this early. But I think that the consensus that I've gotten from staff and really from council members and the public is that a same day works best, whether or not it's, as Mr. Carter says, 9 a.m. or the 10 or the 1. That's just going to be a matter of opinion, I would probably suggest. But if staff feels comfortable that they can make that 1 work, then I would be comfortable with doing that. And then if we need to make some adjustments, it's not like this is going to be etched in stone out there in front of the building. We'll come back and take a look at it if we need to. So is there a consensus for the consent agenda here, or do you want me to take this into the regular meeting? To make this the same day meeting, the option 1. Mr. Carter?
We have varying opinions. I guess we're going to take it to the meeting. 'Cause
That sounds fair to
we
me.
we
Okay.
don't sound like we're all in agreement.
Yes, sir. That's fine. Okay, we'll take this one into the regular meeting. Thank you, Sarah. All right, let's move on to tab B. This is a discussion item. I think probably it's not on here, but was this, who requested this? A council member, I think, requested this discussion of the Villa Rica golf cart ordinance. Okay. Who wants to, is it you?
Well, actually, I didn't ask for it to be on the agenda. It's just emails have come in. Matt had brought it up at one time. Michael Young had sent an email requesting what we had done to comply, because when we didn't change the speed limit, that sort of thing,
Right.
one of your comments was, we are not in compliance with the current one. So the question is, what are we not in compliance with on the current one? And is this okay? And what have we done to make sure we are in compliance? But that was asked months ago, and I'm just trying to find out where we are.
Okay.
But it didn't come specifically from me, but
I
anyway.
thought it, okay, there's nothing on here, so I thought it came from a council member. Does anybody want to address that at this stage, Mr. Mecklin? You look like you're reaching for your microphone. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No,
but I know that this is in process.
Tom and I had just a very brief discussion. We don't have a golf cart ordinance. We have a personal transportation vehicle ordinance. And nobody has raised any new questions to me in the last month or two. If there's something to take a look at, we'll take a look at it. But I don't really know what the question is now. But
Okay.
the quick answer is we don't have a golf cart ordinance.
All right, well, I don't know that that's going to work. So let me just try to see if I can clarify just a little bit. I think what Ms. McPherson is probably, since she's referring to some comments I made back when we were looking at making a change to the speed limits for these PTVs, was just really some compliance issues in terms of signage and designated crossings and things like that. Does that sound about right? Okay, so what we could do is maybe in tomorrow's meeting or something, or sometime soon, let's put that on the agenda and kind of update the council about where we are with that, rather than do it right here, because you don't, A, know all that information right now, and B, it's probably not something we want to take up right here.
I do remember mention being made of conducting an audit to see if we were in compliance by having our signage up. I don't know that that's been done.
Okay, well, would that be okay with you?
Yes, and the only other thing that I think would be really helpful is that because we do have the PTV ordinance, that we do what we can to educate people on what that is. And that may not be a compliance issue, but if people have no idea that we even have an ordinance or certain regulations, or they're supposed to have a registration, at the police department and a tag on there if they're, driving on city streets, they don't have any idea that we did that here. There's not a whole lot of media on it, and a lot of people don't read the paper and other things like that. So we've got to get the information out there for people.
One of the best ways of doing that I've seen in a number of other cities is to have something on our webpage that is dedicated to PTVs so that, somebody asks the question or wants to answer the question of what do I need to do if I have a golf cart in Villa-Rica, to have a page that answers those questions about whether you need to register or not.
Right, and then it's easy for us to screenshot it or share it and put it on social media and get the word around.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. We'll take that up too, and then we'll have Ken update the website with a page for that. Because we know we've got more and more of those on the roads, and that we're moving more and more in that direction. Certainly the new connector will accommodate golf cart paths. Okay, let's move on to tab B3, contract between city and CVB for distribution of funds pursuant to the hotel motel tax. David?
Yes. Since the last meeting, we discovered that we didn't really have an existing contract that governed the distribution of our funds that we were receiving in on hotel motel tax. We were paying it, I believe,
Can you pull that mic over just a little bit?
Yeah, we were paying it to the DDA, and we didn't have a contract with the CVB. So this is establishing that contract. It's patterned over the other contract that we did have, but this is a contract with the correct entity, the CVB.
Okay.
Same terms.
All right, council, do you have any questions for David? Okay, Ms. McCoy.
Why was the first contract with the wrong entity? Out of curiosity.
Because it was probably a 10-year-old contract.
Okay.
Nobody had ever gotten around to looking at it to update it.
Okay.
Originally,
All right, hold on,
this.
hang on.
Sorry.
Are you done? I'm done. Okay.
Sorry.
Mr.
Yeah.
Humphrey.
Originally, the CVB and the DDA were the same entity, and then they got split a couple years ago.
Okay. Anyone else got any questions for David on this? Okay. So do you have a motion to this, David? Oh, here it is. I'm using paper because my tablet is still not working. Okay, is there any objection to making this consent item number 1? All right, if there's no objections, I'll make this consent number 1. Let's move on to B4, reorganization of Board of CVB. This is also David. You also have this B5, if you want to take both of these at the same time.
Yes, both of these proposed motions are just to reorganize our existing structure. And my understanding is that just from a structural standpoint, it is going to be easier to manage these organizations, to have more involvement between city staff and the boards with this reorganized effort. The one question that I have, and I don't know the answer to this, is whether or not there's been any discussion with the existing members of these boards to tell them that this is being considered. But this is all generated just by the necessity of it's difficult to get enough people to serve on all of these boards, and there's been some effort to consolidate them and to place people in the positions where they're best suited to serve.
Okay, my understanding is whether or not there has been discussion, they have been sent copies of this and notified that this would be on the agenda today. Any council members have any questions for David on either of these items, which let me just repeat them. This is, this concerns reorganization of the Board of CVB and reorganization of Board of Main Street Advisory. Mr. Carter?
Okay, and let me understand in a nutshell what these two are doing, is combining these two boards. Is that what we're doing there?
Yes.
He's shaking his head no, and he's shaking his yes. Okay.
Okay, I'll defer to Tom on that.
We're removing the CVB.
Is your mic on?
We're removing the CVB board and replacing them with the people that are currently on the Main Street board. And then we're recommending that we combine DDA and Main Street, and we allow the current DDA board to serve as the board for both.
But now, there's nothing here about the DDA.
It's on the next one, I think. Number 5.
So the DDA would cover both boards.
So item 4 is to delete the CVB board. And then item
Replace it
5,
with the current Main Street board.
item 5 merges DDA and CVB.
So when Janet moves from Main Street, the tourism manager, then she would continue to run events and continue to work with the same board, but she would be the staff person for CVB instead of Main Street. And then when Elisa goes to Main Street, she would have responsibility for Main Street and DDA.
Yes, so it's not that we're deleting the CVB, it's that, like you said, Mr. Carter, it's more of we're merging DDA and Main Street, which leaves those that Main Street board kind of, and then transition those to CVB, basically, right?
Okay, Ms. McPherson?
We all start, most of us
There's
start
a lot
with
of
M.
M's up here, but
Mick,
actually
and
I was
there's
gonna
McCoy,
recognize
McPherson, I couldn't do
Matthew,
it.
but he, I wasn't sure.
Okay, so I called Tom on this Friday because I had to print it out because it was so confusing about who was moving where and then what things they were going to cover. One of my concerns is not just that I didn't know these people weren't aware of this, but the function that a Main Street Advisory Board would do. CVB is Convention Visitors Bureau. Tourism. It's all about tourism. So a lot of times you select your boards based on people that might have some experience, background, or skin in the game, or interest, or whatever in that particular thing. And I think that's got to be taken into consideration. Secondly, when I first came on council, I believe, DDA and Main Street were combined. And to be honest, I don't think it functioned well because they didn't really understand that there were different roles. Downtown development developing things here is very different from, not that you don't need to communicate with one another, but that's very different from what Main Street emphasizes. And I'm not saying they can't cooperate, and that's why I asked, are there other cities doing this? Is there anybody else we can look at, see how it's worked out for them? So that's kind of my concerns. If we've got people on boards that may have joined the board for a whole different reason from the role they'll be in now, and that if it's going to be tourism, that's going to be different from what you're expecting to be on a downtown development board. So, I don't know. I hate to see us rush it. I think we maybe need to vet it a little bit. That's all.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. McCoy?
I know they have like different missions, but isn't the overarching mission kind of the same for all? They have different purposes, might be the right word, but the overarching mission for all three boards, isn't it kind of the same? Yes, no?
I'm gonna suggest that was a question to you. And you're still
Yeah,
just looking.
I ended it with a question mark.
I don't think of them as having this, like, mission is awful broad. So one of them, the CVB, to me specifically, is tasked with getting people from outside of the city to come here to events and stay in hotels. And that's not the function of the other two,
Okay.
right? The Main Street Board, to me, is more specifically focused on downtown businesses
Okay.
and their health and recruitment and retention. And then the DDA has a different statutory authority because they can issue bonds and be involved in holding land and some things that you probably typically wouldn't talk about with Main Street. But part of what we're dealing with is just the practicality of who are our staff and what are our staff good at. Janet has proven that her ability to run events is better than anybody that I've dealt with here or I think that we've had, and I want to keep her involved in events. The issue with her position is that position has got to be full-time for us to keep the designation we have as a regional visitors information center. So we're sort of walking a compliance fine line to be able to keep that with the number of people, because we don't just have 6 people working in the office. We have basically 2 people with a coordinator. So, and we've got 3 boards. And 2 people and 3 boards just hadn't worked well. When we split CVB out of the DDA a couple of years ago, I didn't feel like the guys, the people that were on the DDA were making good CVB decisions. Right, and that was one reason I advocated that we split them. The downside to that has been that CVB's membership has just been a constant turnover, right? We were hoping to put a lot of the hotel people on that board, and they've not been able to participate. So that just was like a bust. The whole time I've been here, we have dealt with the problem of having to double people up. Matthew, how many boards? Michael
5.
Young, right now, David Rogers, multiple boards, Tom Flowers, multiple. I mean, that's not ideal to me. So I'm trying to be realistic or pragmatic or whatever, practical something. It's not ideal. I'm not going to argue that this is ideal. And I don't know it's going to work. I told Matthew that yesterday. To me, we're going to try it. We're going to see if it works. Or not try it. I mean, you got to decide if we're going to try it or not. But this is what I'm recommending because I think that it has a practical possibility of working because of the people. I think Elisa can, because of her, she's been here her whole life. Her husband runs a business downtown. She knows everybody. She's got the potential with her demeanor, her knowledge of the city and the people, that she can go in there and be effective as a Main Street person. I already told you about Janet. I know that Janet can run events, and I think that her board is totally committed to what we're doing downtown. And if I don't know that any of them are going to function differently being on CVB than they do Main Street, because a lot of what they're going to do are events, and that's where those volunteers typically have come from.
So to be clear, are you suggesting that CVB and Main Street and CVB are the same members and the duties are kind of merged? Or are we having two separate boards with the same members? Because it's not really, I'm not clear.
We're going to have a CVB organization, and the board members are going to move from Main Street to there.
Okay.
And then we're going to we'll combine the board. I'm not sure how combine is the right word. We're going to authorize the current DDA board to also be the Main Street board, and for both of them to work with Elisa, and they'll meet back to back on the same night. So they'll have a 6 o'clock DDA meeting, and when they adjourn, they'll go into a Main Street meeting, and it's the same folks.
Okay.
And Elisa will be working with both of them.
Okay.
Now, you said that
Ms. March.
you didn't know if this was gonna work, so do you have an alternate plan in case this doesn't work?
No, because I don't know what part of it's not going to work if it doesn't work.
So,
All right.
yeah, sorry.
Got you. All right, Mr. Montan.
So, like, let's just take for example, we just did the Thrill at the Mill a couple weeks ago, or last week, I guess it was, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And that was a Main Street event, so that will now be a CVB event?
It's going to be, so.
Like, who's going to actually,
in
like,
my-
the
in my
concerts,
view,
et cetera?
It's going to be Janet's event, right? So it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a city event. But they're all going to be in the same office, right? So Janet and Elisa and the coordinator will all be in the same office working together. And there won't be, in my view, as much of a distinction between this is me and this is you as there was when Janet and Sharon were there, because the way that worked was Janet was somewhat disconnected from the downtown and event piece. But we're not a tourism destination in my mind, right? We got Pine Mountain, we got some recreation, but I mean, people don't just come here from all over and stay here overnight. That's not primarily who's in our hotels. It's mostly construction workers that are in the hotels. So it doesn't feel like to me that having a full-time tourism person makes sense here. Like, I just don't get it. But we can't keep the RVIC designation without it, right? So when I say we're walking this fine line of compliance, that's not really what I mean.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Carter?
Okay, as I understand, item 4 actually deletes the CVB board, and Main Street becomes the CVB board, so we reaffirm it, Main Street to be CVB. Then item 5, we take the Main Street activities and add them to the DDA board. Is that what we're doing here?
Technically, DDA is going to become Main Street. So you're not, yeah.
So we're not
You're
gonna have a
you're not
DDA?
deleting anything. It's
DDA goes
DDA
away?
and Main Street
No,
are the
you
same.
still
They're wearing
got a
two
DDA.
hats. One member's wearing two hats.
DDA
And then-
and Main Street are the same thing.
Yes, they'll be the same. And then the people who are currently on the Main Street board will now be serving on the CVB board.
Right, I understood
Right,
part
right.
4.
I think it's important to point out that, part of the reason for the confusion, you ask the question, why can't we just lump all these into one organization, let them do all of it? And the reason for that is that we are trying to maintain the 3 separate organizations because they have different functions and they have different places under the law. Like the DDA is a statutory board, and the Visitors and Convention Bureau has to be something that is separate. It's not a portion of the city of Villa Rica. It is a separate corporation that we are contracting with. And then finally, Main Street has to be separate because it has a relationship through the Department of Community Affairs to get some of these grants and things. So we got to keep 3 boards, but we're trying to streamline it in such a way that these 3 boards can be operated by the core group of people who really care about all this stuff within the city.
Okay, Tom.
So one parallel maybe that makes this worse is the city council is populated and the redevelopment agency has the same board members. Does that make sense? 2 different organizations, but the same group of people. Or what do you call that? Function as the board or whatever.
And the Public Facilities Authority to
Yeah,
add on to
PF
that.
Right.
We're actually the
So
PFC.
y'all are actually 3 different boards.
Right.
Or you're the board of 3 different organizations
With the council and the PFA, Public Facilities Authority.
and the redevelopment agency.
Okay, is there any other, okay, Ms. McPherson.
But we're not putting on a different hat and operating every week doing something related to that. You know what I'm saying? So not only do we have to think about these people that are doing DDA and Main Street, DDA has not just statutory, they have all kinds of powers these other advisory boards do not have. They have to be able to think in 2 different ways, like put on one hat, okay, now I'm thinking about development. I can't keep doing Main Street stuff as downtown development because it's not the same. So we're going to have to consider who's on those boards. If you now have Main Street people that have been, they're thinking about businesses, downtown events, and everything else, and now they've got to really think about not just downtown events like Thrill at the Mill, big sporting activities that bring families and kids that are competing in athletics and all their parents, and they stay in all our hotels. It's a different mindset. And the type of people you might have on DDA, which is very different, would be you might want to have an architect on there. You might want to have a banker on there. There are the type of varieties of people that you want to put on downtown development. I picked up some of that from GMA over the years. That would be different from who you'd put on Main Street. So just think through that, because we still need that variety. If it's downtown development, sorry, I know you can't do that in the middle of a meeting, but there will be public comment at the end. Anyway, we've got to think about who's on there, and some of the people maybe, I'm not into that, and they'll want to get off the board anyway. But think about who's on there, because it's going to be a different type of activity and powers, especially when it comes to downtown development. Hope that made sense, somewhat.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so when we first looked at this, and we've done the staffing reorganization, and of course that is occurring irrespective of what we do here, I think that it sounded workable, possibly, at best, workable, because we've been down this road before. I just have a feeling that I don't want to do this right now. I want to wait maybe a month. Because I would like these boards to weigh in, be able to talk a little bit to the council members, maybe be able to weigh a little bit through the staff, and let's see if some stuff can filter up that we may have not considered. It's not that, I don't think that the idea will change much if there is this reorganization, but I would hate to do this and then say, you know what, we should have vetted just a little bit more. So does anybody have a problem with me just moving this? I'd just rather not take this up today. Okay, so let's move this. No, sir, you can, not till the end. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll let you come up and speak. I'll give you a minute. Is there a bunch of y'all here? Y'all all want to talk? Well, hold on just a second. Just hold on a second. If I'm going to move this and not take this up today, can you wait and do it at a subsequent meeting? Do you feel like this?
I'd like to give you some food for thought while you're considering it during this interim period. We'd like
All right.
to give you a little bit of food for
All right.
thought.
Let me just give y'all a combined about 3 minutes, okay? Can you put 3 minutes up there? Y'all just come up and see if you. This is very unusual, but
Sure,
Look,
thank
we
you.
value the work that you all do and volunteering on these boards, so I'm going to make an exception here today. But I don't want to drag it out too long, okay? Sure. All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Neville Bada with Applied Strategies and Principles. What we do is we do economic development through hospitality, travel, and tourism, as well as through chambers of commerce. I've been on the board for about the past year. We've been working with Sharon DuPont ever since she's been on the board. We have been meeting regularly. And to answer the council person's question about are they separate missions in most cities, what do? They have separate boards between the chamber, DDA, and the CVB because the missions are all different. Half of our board is comprised of people that are within the hospitality industry itself, whether it be hotels, lodging, economic development, and the like. And while those on the Main Street board, they will have a lot of great input, they're not going to have the input and the insights from a tourism point of view. And we believe tourism is economic development that you bring in on a daily basis. So I will yield my time now to Dan.
Thank you. I feel bad I didn't bring a big check today. I'm Dan Christner. We own a couple of the fantasy Airbnbs here in town. And I've been on the CVB now. And probably the key phrase that was just spoken here was probably the words, I don't see Villa Rica as a tourism town. But we're on the CVB, and that's our job, and that's the feeling we're getting. We're not getting any cooperation or feeling of that we're going to be supported. Sharon's been gone for how long now? No one's been replacing her, and Sharon was not full-time. She was full-time, and I don't want to speak for her, but I'm going to tell you right now, Janet is up above her eyeballs with everything she's doing already. I don't think we need to tax her with even more things that she's doing. It's tough. Just tourism alone. This town has such potential. We're right on the highway. We have got literally dollars driving right by us on Interstate 20 every day, and we're not taking advantage of it. And again, and I hope you understand, this is not self-serving. Villa Rica doesn't bring people to our bed and breakfast. We bring people to Villa Rica. We got people from California, Chicago, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., New York coming. So it's not self-serving. I just love this city, and I want to do the best for it, and I think it could be a great tourism town. Look at the Greek Festival in Marietta. Look at the Chalk Festival in Marietta. We've got to get going.
Okay, running out of time, but Candy Wilson, I actually work for a bank, but I care about tourism. I love to travel. I understand the importance that we're growing in Villa Rica. People, like Dan said, drive by all the time. We need to think more about tourism because it does bring a lot of money into the city and can bring more in.
Hi, guys. I got 12 seconds. Well, I'm Mari Melendez. I just want to make something as far as DDA and Main Street. This is not going to be done in 5 seconds, so just give me an extra minute. My thing is tourism, DDA, we all have the same mission to bring people into Villa Rica because Villa Rica is such a beautiful town. It has so much to offer, but I feel like that's not being portrayed in everything that we're doing. As far as me personally, I've asked multiple times about like the sidewalk, the road issue here, and it's always being put on the back burner. And as far as downtown stuff being part of the DDA, I do not see a lot of stuff getting done. I see more things that don't need to get fixed, trying to get fixed right now. As far as Janet being moved off Main Street to go to tourism, it's just a lot of things that I feel like we weren't told either that this was going to happen. So saying that we were told or emailed or anything like that, that's not a true statement. So I just want better communication between all of us because we have so much to offer in Villa Rica, and I just want that to happen and be portrayed through all the boards that we have currently.
All right. So thank you. Let me say this. I appreciate all of the enthusiasm that you all have, and I don't think, and I'm not going to speak for Tom, I don't think he meant to say that we don't have tourism. Certainly we have tourism. I think he was probably saying we're not like a major attraction, but the fact that you all want to improve that, I mean, is impressive, and I think that this council will take that into consideration as they look at this. But like I said, we're not going to take this up today. We may do it. I'm not saying we won't do it next month, but we're going to take a little more time to vet it out. And see what we can do to make it, better if we make any changes to it at all. One of the concerns has been that we have been unable to get enough people to serve on all these boards. So you all could help us with that. Maybe if we could see that we can fill these boards up, then that would alleviate some of that concern. My sister serves on one of those boards, on the Main Street board, and she forwarded me an email that she got, so I assumed that everybody had gotten it, but if you didn't, I apologize. But I appreciate you all speaking. I appreciate you being here today to do that, and we're gonna take this up at another meeting, though. Okay? And feel free to reach out to any of these council members, reach out to staff, and just provide your ideas. We all have email addresses. You're welcome to email. Okay? Did you have something?
The only other thing I'd say about the tourism is we are considered a regional tourism system, so we have to not just think Villa Rica. For someone that did biking events and that sort of thing, the fact that we're this close to the Silver Comet, we're 15 minutes. You get on a good day, head up Dallas Highway, you park behind the Chamber of Commerce or one of those trailheads, you're on the Silver Comet. That's a big draw for people. Carrollton can only fit so many people in. When you have something regional, like a state cross-country meet and those type of things, it fills up all around the area. They can't all fit, but we're off of 20. See, we have a big advantage. We're really close to the airport. It's a quick compared to being down the highway. So we have to think more regionally. Tallapoosa draws people, even with kayaking. We're not that far, so when you think more regionally, not just we're not Helen, we're not Dahlonega. It's not all about just getting people that, want to just come here. If you do, like my husband and I do, you take the RV, you go somewhere, you may have your base area, and then you hit things around there that you want to visit. And that's why the people on these boards need to understand some of that. You don't want me on it. I don't know enough. I've only been but I know some from being a tourist, from being the person that goes and visits these places. So, but I'm glad we're going to give it a little bit more time because I think it's obvious that it needs more time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is Ron here? Is he out of town, or who's going to take these up?
Let me say something.
Oh, Ms. Marchman.
I see
I'll give
the
you a minute.
enthusiasm with those people that just got up and spoke, and I think if you could get more people and get it like it's supposed to be, I think you'd have more. You don't want to discourage them and get them where they don't want to do what they're doing, because this is all a volunteer.
Right.
So I think we should do as much as we can to encourage these people and try to get them. I mean, it's volunteering, so you can't make anybody do anything, but I think if we show more support to the boards that we do have, then that would help. Because the enthusiasm that I saw today, and then if you're going to post some water on top of that, you're going to really have a big mess going. You won't have anything. So I think we need to consider them and their suggestions and things in what we are going to make, decision that we're going to make. See
Absolutely.
what they've got to say to add to what we are doing.
Absolutely.
That's mine.
Okay. All right. So these next three items have a public hearing. I'm going to ask, I guess, Trace, you're going to introduce these items
I
for
will.
Ron. Is Ron going to be here tonight, or he's not?
No, sir.
So you're going to do these? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let's do this. These next three items all have a public hearing. So I'm just going to ask you to briefly introduce these one at a time. I want to see if council has any questions here, because we're going to take these up in full tonight. So I don't want to spend any unnecessary time here, but there could be things that we need to take up. You don't usually stand in Ron's spot. So first thing I want you to take up is VA-13-22, 395 West Bankhead Highway Stream Buffer Variance. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
morning.
So this is the Little Caesars project with the convenience store gas stations that we talked about on last month's agenda. They have came back with doing the things that we asked for them to do as far as getting the tanks out of the buffer zone and getting their canopy out of that buffer also, and also came up with a landscape plan that really meets all of our needs. One thing that after getting everything into us, I know here we've got that staff recommendation is denial, but we're going to looking at recommending approval on that because of the water quality it's going to add and the site improvements.
Say that again. You're going to look at recommending approval when?
No, I mean, as we looked at it, we see the benefits in it.
Okay.
Right.
So you're going to recommend denial, but you're going to talk positively about it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to say that before we got the latest stuff in this week, we were looking at denying it.
Okay.
But what they've brought in, we would be looking at approving it. So it just didn't get it up. I'm not good at this. Can you see that?
Let's do this. Just
Can we?
let me take a breath for a minute.
All right.
I flew in really early this morning. I got up at 4 a.m. and flew here. And Tom said to me yesterday, "Please don't come in grumpy."
Right.
So I hope I'm not coming across grumpy. If you're going to recommend approval on it, I want to see that here. I want you to tell me that that's what's going to happen tonight. And if you're not, then tell me you're going to make it look pretty when you talk about it, but you're going to recommend denial on paper. Is that what you're going to do?
I am going to recommend approval tonight.
All right, you're going to change this then?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Tom is shaking no, though.
Well, you might want to check with your direct report on that.
I'm going to go home and start over. All right?
I apologize. Look, it's tough being up there. No question. Just Council, do you have any questions?
Ron recommended denial, which he's supposed to do.
Right.
Right. But Bobby and Tracy and I have been trying to work with the developer to get them to deal with the issues that came up at the meeting that made us wanted to push it. Landscaping is part of it, the tank location, how much buffer they're going to sit in, and we think, the three of us think, that we're getting close to something that we could recommend to y'all that y'all would approve.
Okay, so
right? But as far as Ron's concerned, it's dead. I mean, it's not compliant. The reason that you would consider approving it is because it's legally non-conforming right now, right? Y'all understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be non-conforming, but less non-conforming. And we feel like that's enough reason for y'all to consider this.
Okay.
Right.
So
It's
actually,
not making it perfect.
what you are going to do is you're going to recommend a denial, but you're going to talk about it in a way that suggests the council could feel good about approving it. Is what you're going to do. Does that sound right?
I'm going to do exactly what pleases my boss. So there you go.
That's probably a good plan. Does anybody have any
Yeah.
questions here that we need to take up now?
Yeah.
Mr. Carter.
Are you going to change what's on this letterhead here from denial to approval? I want to know that.
Ron's out of town.
I don't think so.
He just said no.
Okay, you're going to leave it like as denial?
Because that's Ron's report, and Ron's position hasn't changed. It's not conforming.
But y'all gonna talk it up because you're more satisfied with what you've got now than what you had before.
We feel like that the developer is trying to get to the point where it's the best use that little bitty triangular site with two creeks on it can deal with.
Okay,
And if
one
that's
thing.
good enough, and y'all approve it, then we're good. And if y'all don't approve it because it's not perfect, I get that. I mean,
Okay, one other thing. It's still got to go to the state for the 25-foot buffer. Is that correct?
no, they've redesigned to get out of the state buffer.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else need to get something now? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, just that we talked about this a long time last month.
Yep.
Okay, so we spent a lot of time on it, and then we tabled it, and that's understandable. It's probably the most complex issue that we tabled compared to parking or changing some bushes. But nonetheless, if you don't do your homework the week before and get through this agenda packet and then start making the calls to get the details right, I had talked to Bobby, I had talked to you, then you get here and we still can't get through it because nobody knows what changed. You know, so if we didn't call, that the tanks got moved out, if you don't understand that diagram and I don't understand all that, I have to call. Then we get drug out another hour on the same doggone topic. So I'm saying, get through your packet as soon as you can, start making the calls, because that's the issue when you do have your work session on the voting day. You've got to kind of front-end load getting all this done so you're ready to go today. That's not an exhortation. I'm not trying to get on to anybody. I'm just telling you the challenges that it poses for me, that if I don't do that, I'm not ready to vote on it today. So I'm having to make calls I have to finish it on Friday of the weekend so I can get those calls either in on Friday or on Monday, because there's things that have changed and all of us need to know what changed from last time to now. So we're ready to go on this and we're not talking about 2 hours tonight.
Okay, does
Sorry.
anybody have any questions for Tracy, though?
Okay.
All right, Matthew, Mr. Montana, go ahead.
All right, so I understand on paper, your recommendation is continue to deny. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, but we're going to talk it up.
Okay, but you're going to talk it up, and out of your talking it up, there's going to be certain things that the developer has done that mitigated the impact, and they presented those to you already, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so with that analysis and those things they've done, you're going to talk it up and make it a positive thing, and you're thinking we probably should approve this. So my question is, are we going to, if we do approve this tonight, do we need to make those things that the developer's committed to conditions or stipulations to the variance approval? And if so, are we going to have proposed language to make this easy tonight versus having me or someone up here mutter through something with technical language?
Well, the way it's going right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be easy with me up here. But yes, so we can have them put the language in there that they will meet the landscape plan that they propose to us, and that they're going to stay out of that buffer with their tanks, and they're going to have to adhere to the sketch that they had presented to us. Yes, we can do that.
Okay, so you're doing fine, Tracy. Don't take it the wrong way. But to his point, so what Tom essentially said is that the more you've worked with this developer, the more you've looked at this site, the more they've made proposals, the closer you've gotten to saying, you know what, this is something that we could feel good about. So what I think that I would like to see, and what I think Matthew, Mr. Montana's talking about, is put those conditions in as an addendum to the cover sheet, and then allow the motion to reference those conditions so that we don't have to try to read them off up here. Can you do that?
Yes,
all
sir.
The things that you're saying is moving you in that direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that sounds good to me. All right, has anybody got anything else here? Okay. Bobby, do you want to talk?
Well, not to belabor this any longer, but to speak for Ron, from a zoning perspective, it should be denied. But
Yes, sir.
this parcel has extenuating circumstances on it. And what I'll say tonight, if I'm invited to the podium, from an environmental and an engineering perspective, developing this the way they have assured us they will, it'll be better for the environment and it'll be a nice project, rather than it sit there with asphalt dumping whatever it dumps in that stream. They've pulled their building out of the state buffer. They've moved their tanks out of our 75-foot buffer, and their landscape plan is substantial. And
Okay. And you talked a little bit about that the last one. What did you call that creek?
the stream behind that is an impaired stream.
Impaired, that's right.
That EPD has labeled such, and anything we can do to that parcel to improve that quality in that stream, we really need to do it if we can.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that. I think that we may have you come up and talk about that tonight. And I understand what you're saying about from a zoning perspective and why it's now, and that I just wanted to clarify that's what we were going to do. Tracy just got a little ahead of himself, and he threw me off.
I'll help him out.
No, but you're doing fine, Tracy. All right, so look, we're going to have a public hearing on this tonight, so we'll take this up in the full meeting tonight. Let's go ahead and do C2, amendment to section 7.02. This is off-street parking and loading as contained in the City of Villa Rica zoning code. There'll also be a public hearing on this item tonight, so briefly introduce it, Tracy.
Yes, so going through the zoning book and the development regulations, we had two different regulations. We had 9 by 18 was in the development code. We had 10 by 20 in the zoning ordinance. So we're just trying to clean that up where we have one consistent ordinance that we go by. We took it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're recommending the 9 by 18 spaces, which that's what we have out in front of City Hall. The size out here on the angle parking is actually 9 by 16. That'll give you kind of a rough where we're at on this, and we feel like that is, large enough and meets all the standards, and we're just wanting to clean that up. Planning Commission voted 5-0 on it.
Okay, and I'll say that I talked to Ron about this. I've talked to developers about this. I've talked to businesses about this, and it's not just City Hall. In fact, I didn't find anywhere in this city where there were 10 by 20 spaces.
Huge.
Which means that basically all of these spaces are 9 by 18. And if we were to make this 10 by 20, these folks would likely need to go out and restripe all of these parking lots unless we allowed some, pre-existing or, non-conforming use. So with that in mind, council, you have any questions for Tracy? Because remember, this is going to have a public hearing tonight. Mr. Carter.
Yes, sir.
Do you know of any 10 by 20 spaces in Villa Rica?
I've not found any. There's some anomalies where they got off on painting their lines where some are, but the consistent is 9 by 18.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr.
Mayor,
Bonte.
I actually I took a picture of the lot of the parking spot that he's referring to in front of City Hall. So that's 9 by 18 right there. If folks want to visualize that for the council.
Mayor, everything that I've approved since I've been here have been 9 by 18.
Okay, that sounds right. All right, anything else? All right, we'll take this up in a public hearing tonight. Let's go to C3, amendment to section 7.8, tree conservation buffers and landscaping compliance. It's contained in the City of Villa Rica zoning code. There'll also be a public hearing on this item tonight. Go ahead, Tracy.
Nick is going to handle this.
Nick.
I'm going to bail. I can still swim.
Really?
Good
We're
morning.
doing so good. All right, go ahead, Nick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excuse my appearance as well.
Well, you've been working. We all
I have
know.
been working. Yes, sir. All right. So this item is in reference to an amendment proposal by city staff to section 7.08 contained within the zoning code. The section 7.08 is in reference to trees that the city would allow developers and any development to place on their site of development. So the city has had a history of, we have seen a history of failures with these 3 species of trees. They're all 3 evergreens. They're the Leyland cypress, the hybrid American arbor vitae, and then the Hetz midget arbor vitae. So these trees are sensitive to environmental stress, drought, dry soil, salt in the soils, things like that. And so once they start to fail, they have, well, it's not really disease, but they start experiencing like needle drop. And I'm sure you've seen them all over the Mirror Lake area. You'll see these nice, beautiful evergreens that have started to turn brown. And once they start, it's over with for them. So we would like to actually see these 3 species removed from that ordinance and from the code book.
Okay, council, do you have any questions for Nick on this? Okay, we'll take this up in a public hearing tonight.
Yes, sir.
Nick, this seems pretty easy to me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's
sir.
how you do it, Tracy.
No, stop.
Leave Tracy
We're
alone.
gonna let Nick try it again.
difference between changing a few trees.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a tree,
yeah.
right? If
It
I would
is.
have got up there, I would have.
Listen, we spend enough time together.
Listen.
We spend enough time together. He knows I'm just ribbing him. Okay, let's do C4, purchase F-150 for code enforcement. Nick?
Yes, sir. So this vehicle, it was new on the lot to Peach State Ford, or at Peach State Ford. We reached out to a gentleman that has helped us in the past, and we've actually purchased vehicles from this guy and dealership. And what we like about this dealership over at Peach State is they put their government incentives on any vehicle they have on the lot if they're willing to sell it, which is fairly rare. I know I've briefed you guys on that before. So they were in receipt of a 2022 F-150 regular cab. This vehicle, if purchased, would be allocated to the code enforcement manager. Obviously, his job requires, to be mobile 90% of the time. He is going from site to site to site. So having a reliable vehicle would benefit him and the city greatly. Currently, he's driving a 2004 F-150 with over 200,000 miles. This vehicle was in the fleet maintenance a long, long time ago. It's one of the first ones I ever drove about 6 years ago, and so it's seen better days. It is still running though. So if this new vehicle is purchased, we'd like to allocate the old truck as like building maintenance, something that we can use when we're all three on different projects, things like that. The price for this vehicle would be $29,785. They put a concession incentive of $4,300 off their sticker price. Within that $29,785, we have included $420 for strobes to be installed at the dealership. This would be, really competitive rate if we were to take receipt of the vehicle and then send it off to go get strobes. So we'd like to go ahead and have that bundled with the purchase. So staff recommends purchasing this 2022 F-150 from Peach State Ford for $29,785.
Okay. So this is an 18-year-old vehicle with 200,000 miles on it. This is a budgeted item.
That's correct.
Counsel, do you have any questions for Nick?
It looks like this
Mr.
budget
Carter?
was from last year. Did you move that budget into this year? Is that what happened?
I personally did not, but I do believe it got transferred and rolled over. It is still budgeted.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 2?
Please.
I haven't been grumpy at all. We are only on consent number 2. My grannies. Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, D, Human Resources. Ms. Taylor, didn't even see you sitting out there. Addendum to the PAYCOM HRIS Human Resources Information System. Say that again?
It was my new hairdo.
I would have noticed that. You were sitting behind Tom, I think. All right, go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I am here to present to you to request to approve automating the benefits to carrier feed via PAYCOM, which is our HRI system. I am going to read verbatim as it will actually explain what that is. Currently, HR manually keys in all benefit-related transactions. This service will automatically update the employee's benefit information with the carriers, which will eliminate the chance of human error. The cost is $440 per pay period and it was budget approved in the payroll processing services line, but it can fluctuate up or down depending on the number of employees that we will have. We are requesting approval, and our motion hopefully is to have it approved, adding our current HRIS systems benefits to carrier feed service.
Yeah, did you do your own cover sheet?
Yes, I did. Is it okay?
That's exactly what it says.
Okay.
You said hopefully. All right, Counsel, you have any questions for Lena?
No, I just,
Mr.
it
Carter?
is, looks like it's budgeted for this year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 3? All right, no objection. Thank you, Lena.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go on to economic development. E1, 2022 Downtown Development Authority appointment. This is by Miss Alyssa Doyle, who is the new Main Street
Yes, good morning,
manager.
everyone. Mayor,
Good morning.
Council. I have a request here to appoint a new member to the Downtown Development Authority. At this time, the DDA has one vacancy and one expired term. That expired term is that of Carl Peabody. He does not want to be reappointed to this board. He's already serving on other boards. His term actually expired in March 31st, but Mr. Peabody did decide to stay on until his replacement was found. So I did attach all the DDA applications that we have received in your packet. Rob Smith was an applicant who applied to be on the DDA board, and after the board reviewed his application, he did come and speak to the DDA and provided a resume to them. So at the October 24th board meeting, the board voted to recommend Mr. Smith's appointment to the board to fill the expired term for Mr. Peabody. So staff's recommendation is to appoint Rob Smith to the DDA to serve a 4-year term from March 31st, 2022 through March 31st, 2026. So this, he will fill, if you vote for him, he'll fill Carl Peabody's expired term, and we will still have one vacancy on the board.
Okay. How many applicants did you have?
How many?
Do you remember how many applicants you had?
4.
Okay.
I was going to say 3
Are they
or
all
4.
in the packet?
They
I
are.
didn't pull that up.
But actually,
Okay.
it's the applications we've received this year.
Okay.
5?
So
Okay.
So will you use those applicants to fill that vacant seat?
Well, I will take it back to the DDA meeting this month
Okay.
and get them to take a look at it.
All right. Council, does anybody have any questions for Alyssa? Ms. McPherson?
Just a couple things. I've seen Mr. Smith's, and there were a number of good applicants, by the way, just reading through, their applications, who they are, what they do, that sort of thing. I've seen his passion for downtown, Villa Rica in general, improving, that sort of thing. But I two things just to mention overall. On the application, this is a housekeeping item. It still lists that you can sign up or apply for BOA, Board of Appeals, and one of the applicants did do that. That needs to be removed from the application because we don't have a Board of Appeals. It's basically us. And let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, so when these people apply, and I know some of them it's months in advance, are we doing something, and I hope we do if we're not, where we basically say, we made a new appointment, thank you for applying, this is the person that was appointed, that way they know it's not open, but these other boards are, because some of them apply for 1, 2, or they'll say, I'm open to this board and that board. I just want to know if we let them know they were considered, but the position's been filled, just so they know
I'm not
what's going
sure
on.
about those other applicants because some of them appeared months ago. I don't know what the process was, but I will do that going forward.
Yeah, I don't have the authority to instruct that to be done, just to bring it up for y'all to discuss, and it just seems courtesy-wise, so these people will know that they were considered. Maybe they want to get on a different board. They might look at something else.
All right, Mr. Carter? Oh, all right, Mr. Bumpton?
I'll just note to kind of piggyback a little bit off what Councilwoman McPherson said. I mean, this application generally was last looked at in August 2015. So it, obviously we need to change. Ms. Doyle is no longer the city clerk as of, I guess, today or whenever that change formally would happen. So this thing probably just needs a general refresh altogether to make it more current with how we conduct this. Because I think even at this time, we weren't using civic clerk to manage the boards, so that might be that might have an impact. We might be able to put this completely online and versus having this written application altogether. So I know it's kind of off topic, but I thought it'd be a good point what we have in front of us.
Sure. All right, anybody else? Okay. So, is there any objection to making this consent number 4? Nope. All right, hearing no objection, let me just say that I know Rob Smith, he is serving on the Villa Rica Housing Authority. He's doing outstanding work over there. I see him participating in a great many things around the city, and I appreciate you coming on this board, sir. Okay, let's move on to F, Information Technology, Jim Chambers. This is AV system upgrade at the V-Plex. Go ahead, Jim.
Good morning, Mayor Council. As you guys remember, we did the AV upgrade or system overhaul at V-Plex a few years ago, utilizing Rica, who at the time were doing our camera system, access control, alarm system, kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket. COVID hit. They pretty much started outsourcing everything, camera system, access control, and whatnot. And the system was was severely underperforming. So this is to go with a company that's reputable, that this is only what they do. I try to let them do it because we were utilizing them for so much, and they were very responsive at the time, had a good relationship with them. So that's what I wanted to find as far as an AV system now, because even with our current AV system that was installed in here, to get on their schedule just for a simple service call is a month out. That's why myself and Daniel's been band-aiding this along as much as we can, and I'm not somebody you want messing around in an AV system, so we want to have a competent, reliable integrator.
Well, let me say this. That system at the Vplex is in dire need of being probably just,
And
I don't even know
Distex-
what the right word is. It
Distex,
is awful.
They did the Carroll County Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
If you've been, that's about the closest one I know as far as a big install, where it's a nice large room that would be incomparable to that.
Okay.
So and they're local. They're out of Bremen. I mean, every time I've called them to, hey, I want to, I'm thinking about doing something different with this. Can you come out and look at it? They come out same day.
Yeah.
I've not had an integrator to do that. So
I don't want to see this Band-Aided. I want
No.
to see this thing operational and working correctly every time. I don't want to spend this $30,000 here, because this seems a little low to me for what needs to be done. But I'm not an AV person. If you're comfortable that this is going to make this system work, because we've been holding those leadership luncheons over there now for over a year, and I'm telling you, that is a mess.
Yep.
That is an absolute mess.
the only thing I believe that they're going to keep is the video side, the screens.
Well,
the
that actually
projectors,
works.
and
but
that's
the
been
sound
fine.
is a problem. Okay, Council, do you have any questions for, all right, Ms. McPherson?
Jim, do you recall what we paid for that other upgraded system we did a few years ago? General idea, anything?
It is around 20.
Okay.
Mm.
Because ultimately, as you're saying, I guess they're gone or they outsourced everything. Obviously, it didn't work, or if it did, it was for a very short time. So I want to make sure that whatever we do get this time, and it sounds like you're talking about how reputable and responsive they are. The other thing is, it's really probably not a Jim question, is aside from the leadership luncheons, and it truly was embarrassing to have speakers there. Thank goodness the guy that was a chef used a teacher voice, got down on the floor, and just spoke to us, and it worked a lot better. And to be honest, when you're tied to a mic and you have a really good speaker rather than a headset, it so limits them anyway. So I don't know if that's being considered as to, are they going to be tied down to holding a mic? But Jeff
we will
Fuqua,
have
I think,
lapel
was-
option, we will have the wearable, and we will have handhelds.
Okay, because that'll make it a lot nicer. Fuqua, he was a very brisk speaker, but had the volume even been better, but the volume was so poor that people were missing a lot of what he said, which was really good points. And lastly, aside from the leadership luncheons, what else are we using over there? When else are we using that sound system? It does have a stage. Is it being used to its max capacity? So I'm not willing to spend a fortune for a place that we use
Parks and Rec
once
uses
every
it.
3 months.
They use it
but-
for like Zumba and other
Well,
things.
let me say that's also sort of a chicken and egg thing. Nobody wants
What
to
comes
use
first?
it when it don't work. And they do beauty pageants over there. I mean, they do a number of events, but the sound is
And they use the sound
I
system.
think that if the sound were operational,
would come.
then yes, then you could attract more use out of that facility. But Tracy, welcome. Say something to us.
We would be very careful on letting it just be used by anybody because of the technical, features that it has. I couldn't even run, I don't even know how to run the one that's there now. We don't want to just hand the key over to anybody. It's a process, and I'm not interested in that process because it's an expensive acquisition. So, but I do think if we had a better system, more upscale organizations would come in and want to use the facility.
And this will
Okay.
be easy to use.
Okay, good.
So at this point, it has very limited use, but it could have more. And maybe when somebody's doing a class, you may not want to give it to people like that, but all the more, I think, to have a lapel mic or a headset or something where the person can actually move around while they're speaking, a little easier. Okay,
All right.
that's all.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there any objection to making this consent number 5? All right. Here, no objections. Thank you, Jim.
No problem.
All right. Tracy, come back up. Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services. This is to fill a vacancy of the Villa Rica Recreation Advisory Commission. How many people you have? Is that a 7-member board?
It is a 5 or 6. I don't believe there's 7, and I question why there's not 7.
You don't know if it's 5 or 6.
It's not 7. I do know that.
How many vacancies do you have?
After this, I believe we'll have 1 vacancy, and I'm working on filling that after the first of the year.
Okay.
I thought we reduced it from 7 to 5 a couple years back.
I believe
that
5
was
is the number.
You think it's fine?
It's a small commission.
Okay, go ahead.
We are just here to request your approval in filling the vacancy of Quasi Hudson. We had one applicant, Amy Bradley, who is a local Villa Rica resident. She's been in Villa Rica for 5 years, has children involved in our athletic programs, and in fact, I coached her daughter this season in softball. So we began a relationship and exchange. She vetted my new athletic director, which I'll introduce here shortly, and I said, well, did you vet me? Because, so she's very interested in the operations of our department, and I think she'll be an asset to our department.
All right, council, any questions on this appointment?
Real
All right.
quick.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope you can really use this board. It was underutilized. That's why we lost a lot of people. They were like, well, we don't even have regular meetings. We don't feel like anything we're doing is making any difference. So I hope that can happen. I also worked on a guy at the gym. He was talking to me. He had a passion for this sort of thing, and he lives on the Douglas County side, playgrounds, recreation stuff. I did everything. I didn't send him an application, but I sent the link and said, if you care about this, you're stopping me. We're talking about for 20 minutes. Consider being on that board. So if there's not an opening, maybe in the future.
Certainly.
But we'll try to fill that board. And if you need more people, let us know. Let's alter what
I think we're getting in better shape now. We've got, I think, like I said, the one vacancy. Jody Millams, who is our soccer coordinator, will be stepping down at the end of the year, and he has agreed to serve on this committee, and he would be a really good asset for us because he's affiliated with the school system, Booster Club. I think it would be a really good partnership.
Good. Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you, Tracy.
I had one quick question. I don't see public comment on the agenda. Could I speak out of turn here? I don't see it on the agenda, but I would like to make a couple of comments.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to make an introduction first. Our new athletic manager started 3 weeks ago. His name is Angel Arzuaga. That's a tough one.
Welcome.
He is a New Jersey native, moved to Puerto Rico, beautiful island of Puerto Rico, has a family, 2 children, wife and 2 children. He hit the ground running about 3 weeks ago. We're very blessed to have him, and I think he's also going to be a big asset to our department. So just wanted him to come in and say hello to everyone today and shake some hands.
Yeah, all right. Well, welcome. You want to come up and say anything?
Tell him you know how to play ball.
And he did play baseball, so that's good too.
Well, there's a joke with that one because just because I'm Puerto Rican don't mean I was gonna make it. I'm real excited to be here. I already met some Latino people that came to the office, so we were speaking Spanish. You already had Courtney looking at me like, "What was he speaking over there?" But it's a good thing. It's a good environment. I came from Temple. I was there for 2 years and learned a lot. And I'm just excited to be in athletics. And the passion I got for this program, it started off when I turned 14, and I want to share this with you guys. My dad and my mom, they both passed away the same year. Oh. They OD'd, and I told my grandmother, I said, I'm never going to see somebody at my age or younger suffer again if I'm around. So I have told parents, I'll fight you for your child because it's about them. That's the main reason I'm here. So I just appreciate you guys for this opportunity.
Well, wonderful. Welcome.
All right, thank you, sir.
I'll come out there and see you.
Also, real quickly, we have almost ended football season, so I wanted to just let you know we haven't finished the job yet, but we have 8U football team that is one of 18 teams competing this Saturday for the Gold Bracket Championship, so that would be the number 1 team in the region. We have 2 10U teams competing also. They will finish first and second, and they are from a field of 16 teams. So our football program did very, very well this year. Very pleased with that program that we are operating. And then finally, we have a young gentleman in our soccer program. His name is Eli. I won't give his full name. He suffered an aneurysm about 3 weeks ago. He walked off the field as a substitution, sat down on the bench, and just fell off the bench suffered an aneurysm. He's been in and out of Emory, Choa, all these different hospitals. He obviously he's got a long road ahead of him, but we just ask for everybody's prayers and thoughts for him and his family as he recovers this terrible, terrible thing. He's 11 years old. Been in our program for quite a while, so just wanted to let everyone know about that and ask you for your thoughts and prayers.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, is there any objection to making that vacancy G1 consent number 6? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. Mansour, this is H1. Before I read this item, would you give us an update on the situation we had here in Billerica?
Yes, let me get my notes.
Okay, sorry. I had actually meant to get to that update a little earlier.
A lot of people relaxed.
So this morning around 7:15 or so, our officers responded to a possible sighting of the murder suspect from Douglas County, Harold Dakers, 34-year-old gentleman. The officers responded to the area of Dollar General behind it. They observed the subject at the wood line. Subject ran into the woods. Officers pursued him. Once they spotted him again, told him, stop. He brandished a gun, at which time he then ran down into the creek bed below, regular ground level. Officers were going after him there. They heard a gunshot. Was able to locate him down in the creek bed, and he had shot himself in the creek bed there and died at the scene. The coroner was notified. We worked the scene itself. No officers fired their weapons, but the subject did pass away there.
Okay. I know the community was concerned about that because, the allegations.
We had spotted him a couple of different times in the area, had chased him but was not able to locate him. The subject had committed a murder in Douglas County, allegedly, but we had worked the original case involving him and the victim, an assault. We had charged him. Since then, he had made bond and he had committed the murder.
And you're right, allegedly. But this whole circumstance is unfortunate. It's just for my purposes, I wanted the community to be aware that that potential threat was no longer. And you did tell me that the family had already been notified before we made these comments today.
Family had been notified, probably within 45 minutes of the incident, we did notify.
Okay, I'm very thankful we didn't have to fire any shots. Our guys did a good job out there. All right. All right, thank you for that update, Chief. We're gonna go ahead and move on to H1. Purchase and deploy 5 additional Axon Taser 7 electronic control weapons, I guess ECW, for use in the police department. Go ahead.
Correct. So we're asking to buy 5 more tasers. This will allow us to have 10 in service, which means each officer will be able to have one while on duty. If you folks are familiar with the taser is considered less lethal. It is something that we would use to prevent somebody from resisting, but it's definitely not the same as deadly force. But it is something that we can use to prevent an officer from being hurt and hopefully the suspect from being hurt. These were budgeted items, and so we're just asking that we can purchase them.
Okay, Counsel, do you have any questions for the Chief? Okay. Is there any objection to making this consent number 7?
No.
All right, hearing no objections, you got it, Chief, thank you. All right, let's, Bobby, Okay, let's go to Public Works. I-1, solid waste pickup change from weekly to bi-weekly or 2 pickups per month. Bobby, go ahead.
Mayor, I can't promise how brief I'm gonna be on this, but it is what it is. For years, Rica has offered a weekly solid waste pickup to its residents. Current charge is $7.50 per month for a weekly pickup. Now, back in the day, they just took the map and just took a pencil and just drew what they thought were the areas to be picked up, and it's, over the years, it's gotten severely top-heavy, especially in the Mirror Lake area. Up until about 6 months ago, when we did the reorg, the solid waste and street department were under the same manager. And when he had solid waste people out, he would substitute street
Is that
people.
mic on?
Green light's on.
Get closer.
We're gonna need a little more volume in here, Jim, but go ahead.
Anyway, the street department would substitute employees or loan employees per day to solid waste to get the route caught up. Well, since we did the reorg, we've been trying our best to let solid waste stand on its own. Because it's a nightmare for budgeting, you know, how much street salary are you contributing to solid waste, vice versa, whatever. Anyway, so Barbara and I got together and I said, look, I've done this before, it's time to do it now. I rerouted this entire city. Took me about 5-6 weeks to do it. But we're gonna have to go to a twice-a-month pickup schedule for the numbers to work. Otherwise, we're gonna have to add employees. And since solid waste runs on the razor's edge budget-wise, you know what that means. It's gonna be an increase. So what you've got there, that's our new map. It's gonna be on an A-B system. You know, Monday week's A, next week, Tuesday week, B. I've incorporated every single new residential development that's in the mill right now, slated for development. I've incorporated all those numbers into this reroute. And each day, our collection crew will pass about 800 parcels. Evens out about 800 with all the new growth that we've got. With this reroute, we will not have to touch this routing system probably for the next 10 to 15 years. And we should be able to handle it with the number of budgeted employees that we have right now. Our plan is, if approved by council, I'm gonna take 2 months to try to get everybody, as many people as we can, notified to what the change is. And we'll do whatever we have to do that. Making this effective February 1st, the day I won't be here. So, and I didn't plan it that way, trust me. But this is the only way we can do it. Keep the rate where it is, even the numbers out where our current employees can handle it. Citizens will still get basically the same service they're getting now, only they put their stuff out 2 times a month instead of weekly. So that's what our plan is, that's what our recommendation is, that the council will go along with that and approve that. That's what we're doing.
Okay, so as probably most everybody knows, we've been working on this, we've been facing this challenge for a while. And Bobby did take 5 weeks to do it because he was only doing it in his spare time, which he has none of. So it took a while.
I did this in Cartersville in '07. Of course, we had curbside garbage collection service in-house.
In-house.
And it's a little bit different. We ended up cutting 2 salaries. We didn't cut them, but we had 2 guys to retire, and we didn't have to replace them because of the efficiency of the new system.
Yeah, the obviously the numbers have to work, so that's going to be a primary concern, and we just frankly aren't going to know until we start doing it. But I think a primary concern that you've already mentioned and that we've talked about before, and that I know everyone here is going to be thinking about, is how do we make sure that the public is fully aware of what's happening? Because when you get used to doing it every week, Now you need to know what your 2 weeks are. And so I'm sure you're working on a plan for that. I know that's going to be a question. I just need you to say, I know you said 2 months' notice. You're going to give 2 months' notice. But I want every avenue of communication that we have through our billing inserts, whatever it takes to do the best we can. There's still going to be plenty of people who say they had no idea.
And Mayor, the rest of this month, we've got the routing set up, but we don't have the database set up the way we want it yet. Working with finance and customer service, we're going to have a search engine on our website. If a customer doesn't know exactly or forgets which day they are, they just type their address in and it'll give it to them.
That's good. I mean, they do that for buses, for the school system, but also our app. I believe our text.
I've been in this as long as I've been in it. Doesn't matter what you do and how many times you do it. It's going to be like 10 or 15
I-
people that just are just out of the loop.
I agree to that, but we're going to know that we did the most we could to make sure that was done. So essentially, though, this is your plan, and you're going to continue to work to get it done. But what you are asking for here is to know that the council is ready to do this, and that's what you're asking for today. And then you're going to finalize this, and the date's going to move a little bit as you piece it together, right?
What I will do next month is I will put this back on the agenda, and then we'll have the formal effective date.
Okay.
And that way I can give you a report of what we've done up to that point to try to notify as many people as we can.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see if council has any questions. Mr. Carter?
Okay,
Next.
I apparently didn't hear this, but what's the difference between the A and the B on a particular day? Morning and afternoon, or what?
No, the A, the entire city has been divided.
Yeah,
And we started out in a geographical area, the Connors Road area, south of Connors, for example, is Monday A. South of Connors, that includes Summersport, Carrington,
yeah,
it's Ashbury, and then the new subdivision that's going in right now, Connors Landing.
okay.
Now, that happens this week. Next week, on Monday, the B side is what's
Okay, it's every other week. The A and the B is every other week. Okay. Now, okay. That clears it up.
McCoy.
Okay, I'll fully admit, when I was looking at it, I didn't look at the map right, but you, because I thought I was in Tuesday B, and Tuesdays are pickup day. Have y'all, so my question was, y'all have cross-checked with what GFL does for,
This is completely different from GFL.
I know, but my point is like if somebody has a GFL day on Tuesday, and then they have one of the A or B on Tuesdays, would that be confusing, or would that be too much traffic on the street?
Should not be a problem at all.
Okay.
It probably is worth just looking at that, though, Bobby, just from the standpoint that you have to have those cans down at the road, and if you also have solid waste, just I think her point is just try to minimize that if you possibly can, because that's going to be a concern if people struggle with it. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, Mr. Montan.
Just to that point, so in my old neighborhood, Augusta Woods, GFL and curbside did not pick up on the same day. In my current neighborhood in Summergate, they do. So I don't think it's.
So you
I don't see people now have an issue with it, or I haven't noticed an issue with it. But while we're on this, before on the map, so we see a lot of white parcels. Are those commercial or vacant parcels?
Anything that's shown in white, we don't offer the service to it.
Okay.
Like the northwest quadrant of our industrial park.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We do pick up in that.
Okay.
But everywhere you see a white parcel, we just don't offer it in that area.
Okay. And then kind of going a little bit also kind of off what Councilwoman McCoy mentioned. So there is a lot of confusion. Like I've got so many texts about this. Why is the Villa Rica only going to 2 days a month for trash pickup? And so can we find some better way to describe trash garbage pickup versus curbside pickup or solid waste? Because what's in that GFL can is all solid. So it's not really clear to the constituents what is solid waste curbside, and it's up by the curb. On top of that, the website has 2 different sections for the same topic. There's a section underneath the customer service. There's a section underneath public works. And then they have separate links that follow you to separate places with separate information. And I've noticed that when I check what's the holiday schedule, one of the links will just have something from like 2 years ago, and the other one will have something that won't have anything at all. And like, this is the number one question I get from constituents every holiday. Is trash picking up? And I go to the website to try to answer their questions without bugging staff, and I can't get a clear answer. Trash pickup, curbside pickup, solid waste, whatever it may be, pickup. So can we do some freshening up on the terminology and the nomenclature, and then also on the website to clean this whole thing up?
So, Ken, are you making notes? Because that's right in your wheelhouse. You need to be doing that. But
Everything
to
is
that
going-
point,
everything's
we
gonna
do
be
need
synced up.
to
Yes.
think a little bit about that, because I mean it's easy to confuse the two. I mean, it's almost like the first sentence needs to be Villa Rica has two types of trash pickup, or something like that, and then this is what we always call. I call it solid waste, so it's easy for me. The GFL is the can, but we need to make sure. I think that's a good. That's a concern. So, well, I think some people think it's all garbage. So.
Trash and garbage, two different.
Well, trash and garbage is two different
Trash
things.
and
So
garbage, okay.
Mr. Carter's not going to help you write it. You just write that on your own.
Mayor, it's all
Ms. McPherson.
it's all refuse.
I try to call it bulk pickup for people rather than trash, so to distinguish, because otherwise solid waste, everything's solid. Thank you for doing this. We needed to have something that was more efficient. I would imagine that the cost, it's been hard to make that budget work also because fuel costs a lot more. And these vehicles have to drive all day long, so it can't help but do that. The only thing, two things I care the most about here is that as far as the confusion, that people can easily access what's their week. You go to town. It's the way Recycle was. Okay, so Recycle was every other week, that they can know where to go. And also for even older people who their big deal isn't getting on the computer or their phone and tracking all this down, is just to have some hard copies and customer service, something, they can stick it on their pantry door or wherever, so they always know A week, B week, where they are on the calendar for it.
Well,
That's all.
Yeah, we plan on doing a full mail out as well. Okay. And then we'll do Facebook. We'll do everything we can to make sure. And, since we provide this service in-house, if there are issues, if stuff gets missed accidentally or whatever, it's just a matter of sending the truck back over. It's not having to wait till next week or week after next.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, and there is I don't think there's an app they can use. The Text My Gov is for reporting things, but it doesn't give you feedback other than it's received your report, so they can't use the Text My Gov.
Okay, I guess I didn't understand. Why are there large sections of white? What is that?
Large sections of white, we don't offer the residential pickup service in those areas.
Like that's whole industrial park, a lot of that's commercial.
Yeah, anything
Okay, so-
commercial or industrial, we do not provide the service.
Okay, all this white area is commercial areas, okay, or industrial.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. We'll see how this works, Bobby. Is there any objection to making this consent number 8? Okay. Hearing none.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Bobby. John, you excited? All right. Utilities. John Bain, number 1, water system tank maintenance agreement. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nope, it's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Good
Let's
afternoon.
get moving. It's almost 1. Go ahead.
This first item is to engage with, so let me get my mic.
It's almost 1. Oh, it's almost 12.
Yes.
You're right. Where's Nick? All that work Nick was talking about doing today. He needs to be changing that clock. Sorry about that, John.
That's
Go
all
ahead.
right. First item is to engage with Southern Corrosion for maintenance agreement for our 4 water system tanks. We utilize our 4 tanks and store approximately 2.8 million gallons a day within the water system. As part of our permit from the state to operate a public water system, we follow AWWA standards, which is American Water Works Association. It is what all national water systems follow, those standards. Part of that standard requires a maintenance agreement on our water storage tanks, and we are asked for that agreement and review of the condition of our tanks during our EPD inspections. So we reached out to vendors for this. There are very few vendors that provide this service, by the way. There's two main ones in the southeast. We got quotes from both of those vendors, Southern Corrosion and American Tank Maintenance. Southern Corrosion came in at a cost not to exceed $45,000. American Tank Maintenance came in at an annual cost of $62,486. These are 10-year agreements. That is typically the minimum agreement for a tank maintenance program. Many of them want to go significantly longer. We held it as short as we could to 10 years. These agreements involve exterior and interior inspections, measuring the coating of the interior of these tanks, regular washouts of the tanks, disinfection, putting those tanks back in service, as well as exterior painting, typically every 9 years. Part of this agreement includes if there's any evidence of exterior rust and any exterior structural issues, those are addressed as well, which is why EPD is so adamant about utility systems having an agreement for these tanks to make sure there's no immediate or catastrophic impact on the public water system. So, again, we received those two quotes. Staff recommendation is to engage with Southern Corrosion as they came in at the lower bid of $45,000. So I move we engage with Southern Corrosion for the maintenance of the city's water storage units at a cost not to exceed $45,000 annually.
Okay. So this is who's currently doing these inspections, right?
They were the last vendor we used. Our last contract expired just about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So
what have we been doing in the gap?
we've been doing what we could internally,
In-house,
but essentially,
okay.
yeah.
That's okay. All right, so we're going to go back to an agreement, and they've done this before. You didn't have experience with them, though, right?
I hadn't prior to coming to Villa Rica.
You did?
No, I had used other vendors, and not used Southern Corrosion, but I did have several meetings with them to talk about the city's storage tanks and what we need to do on the city side. We have some piping work we need to do at a couple of our tanks to help them do their job moving forward. I also talked to staff that had been here for some time, including Aaron Lewis at the water treatment plant, as she was closely associated with them during their work here, as well as Jason and the distribution team. I talked to them about Southern Corrosion's performance.
All right, that was large to my question, that we had some experience that we were comfortable with, and they're also the low bid.
Yeah,
so.
and we have staff that's comfortable with
All
them.
right, council, anybody have any questions? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 9? All right, thank you, John. Let's do J2, lead and copper monitoring rule service agreement. Go ahead.
Okay. As I'm sure we've all heard about increased lead and copper concerns in the drinking water system and newer rules that have been implemented over the past several years. EPA, back in December of 21, implemented the lead and copper rule improvements requirement. Again, that was back in 21 with a compliance date of October of 24. So there are a lot of aspects to that, including increased testing, surveys, a public education component that's required for the public utilities to send out to its customers. But by far the heaviest lift is that we are required to have a digital inventory of every service line in the city, both on our side of the service as well as the residential side. So we need to have an understanding of what every homeowner's exterior plumbing is at every parcel in the city, every service we serve. So that's the big lift for our staff to handle. So there are very few folks that provide this service currently. 120 Water included in their packet a sole service provider letter in which they work with EPD on this work. So we spoke to them. We had several meetings with them as well. We spoke to them about how we would achieve this. And initially, we go back on tax parcels. We have the benefit of a lot of recent construction, so we know what the service lines are, both on our side as well as the residential side. But there's going to be a large component of identifying what the customer side has. This includes test kits, again, surveys that go out to the customers. This includes a survey that would be produced by 120 Water they would send out to our customers with the idea of we get 30 to 50% of those surveys back. Helps us identify. We can do a preliminary inventory, and then they can do some predictive modeling once we get there and identify where to send out the second set of surveys. So it's like, again, it's a pretty long-term project. It's not anything that we're going to accomplish in year 23 as we have until the end of 24. But once we fully identify what all the services are, both on our side as well as the customer side, we then need to implement a 3% replacement per year. So the more we can narrow down that scope, the better off we will be. And the more accurate we can get with this survey, the better off we'll be. As anything we can identify, we have to determine as lead and copper service lines. So we have to deal with that as well. So
Okay.
staff, again, had several meetings with 120 Water on this. We had some Zoom meetings, as well as some in-house meetings with myself, my water operations manager, as well as the distribution manager, Jason, talking about how we can accomplish this best. So staff recommends we move forward with this service agreement with 120 Water. So I move we engage with 120 Water for the development of the lead and copper monitoring requirements at a first-year cost of $21,574.
All right, so you have essentially said that this is a new requirement, and it seems like this is an overwhelming project. But you have a first-year cost in here of $21,000, and you've already made it clear this is not going to be done in a year. What cost does this look like long-term? And it seems to me that what you're saying here is that eventually they're going to have a digital copy of all public and private water lines or copper and lead lines. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll be a digital copy of all service lines.
It just seems to me that would be really costly, $21,000.
Well, we'll be doing a lot of the manual labor. We'll be doing a lot of the identifying. We'll be providing 120 Water a lot of the information they need to build their model.
Okay.
They will be the ones building the model, providing it to us. Another benefit to this is we've been talking about using Brightly for our maintenance software that we approached council about several months ago, and we've been building that to protect our assets. All this information at the end point can be transferred to that. So we will have our service lines in our maintenance program. So we can issue work orders, we can follow up on work orders. We have that digital history already for that.
Okay.
But
All right.
that we will be doing some, like I said, we do have a lot of work to do ourselves. What 120 Water will do is compile that information, send out surveys where they feel it's necessary, do follow-ups, possibly even send out test kits to residents when they may ask the resident to perform a test on their service line, on their interior plumbing, and then we can get that information to EPD. So what this essentially does is it meets the lead and copper monitoring rule that will need to be in compliance by October of 24.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for John? All right. There are no questions. Is there any objection to making this consent number 10? Okay. John, we will do J3, North Plant Solids Handling Chamber Design. Go ahead.
Okay. And also, as we know, we've undergone a pretty significant renovation at the North Wastewater Plant, aerators, belt press, a lot of items there. This is what we deem as the last piece of that project, I would say, where we have an original concrete chamber at nearly the end of the process. And forgive me if I get into the weeds on this in the process, but we have a chamber at the end of the process that collects what we call our activated sludge, and then we send it back either to the beginning of the plant or we move it off to the digester where it gets removed, pressed, and hauled off property. It's old original piping. It's an old tank. We have some structural concerns, piping concerns, very minimal controls. What we would like to do is we would like to have Paul Simonton through this fiscal year design what that replacement would look like with the intent of requesting that in next year's budget. This year, right, what we're going to do this year is design what a replacement tank would look like. It could be a lift station, could be an above ground pumping system. We're not there yet. We would just like to look at the design of that and what it would take.
Okay.
Paul's quote came in at $21,750. So I move we engage with Simonton Engineering for the design of that chamber at $21,750.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
I don't even have this on my agenda. When did this get added, or?
J3, North Plant Solids Handling Chamber Design.
Yeah, I don't have an item 3. I printed this out Thursday at the earliest, maybe Friday. Friday's when I did everything, and it's not on it, so maybe it was on Civic Clerk and it wasn't on. I'll show you the agenda I printed out. So either it was on Civic Clerk and wasn't on the, I usually go through the just city website to print this agenda, but I'll show you what I got, and it's not there. But anyway, so I'm getting what you're saying, but this is one item that I was not up on, so I apologize.
Did you have any questions for him, then?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
It's water.
Okay. Is there any objection to making this consent number 11? All right. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to Deputy City Manager Sarah. All right. Item 1 is approve new city clerk. Sarah?
Yes. All right. So our reorg included promoting Teresa Campbell from assistant city clerk to our city clerk. So just a quick background. Teresa joined us in March 2019, as a receptionist, and October 1st, 2020, we put her in the assistant city clerk position. Since then, she has earned her clerk certification, and she is now working on her master certification for that. October 4th, the city manager and I presented the reorg to the council, and this was part of that plan. So now we're asking y'all to ratify that because effective, she started October 17th in her clerk duties. So.
Okay, well, congratulations, Teresa. You've been doing it for a while in that other chair, so now you get to run that one. Sarah's correct. The council essentially approved this some weeks back, and now we'll vote to ratify that in public because this is a department head, and those are taken up by the council. So, council, does anybody have any questions? All right, if there are no questions, is there any objection to making this consent number 12? All right, congratulations. Officially, I guess.
Yep. All right.
Okay, what's next?
Next is
purchasing authority for staff.
Yes, wanted
Go
to
ahead.
discuss purchasing authority. So in 2015, the current parameters were set. So basically, department heads have authority up to $2,500. The city manager has $2,500 up to $10,000, and the city council sees everything above $10,000. Again, those were set in 2015. Our budget and our number of staff have grown significantly since then, so we're asking the council to consider a change. We would leave all the department heads up at $2,500 as their authority level, except for the utilities director, increasing him to $5,000 just for the scope of what he's doing and the amount of projects and the expense that they usually are. Next, when those parameters were set in 2015, you didn't have a deputy city manager. Now you do. Asking to establish my authority at $10,000. However, there are some departments, for instance, Main Street Tourism, Pine Mountain. There's a handful of departments that I act as their department head. So in that situation, I would be capped like another department head. That way, Tom would still review anything over $2,500 for those. But everything else, I would have $10,000, and then increase the city manager's authority from $10,000 to $25,000.
Okay. All right. Council, do you have any questions on this first? Okay.
No question, but a comment.
Okay, Mr. Carter.
I believe if we do allow something like change from 10 to 25, that's quite a substantial increase, that we should be given reports anytime you spend above the current level of 10.
One of the things I think that we run into here is that Tom likes to bring everything here, which, is good and bad. I mean, sometimes it clogs up the agenda, but he sort of errs on that side. What we've been seeing, though, is that there are a number of things that really should be run-of-the-mill, everyday things that are really piling up, and they're getting over $10,000 sometimes, so he's needing to bring it up here. I don't have any problem with that. I'm sure Tom don't either. He really is. He wants to be more transparent like that. Who would do that, though? If we did a process like that, who would actually put that together? Would it be that one? What's her name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. I remember almost every day at City Hall. Now I'm going to forget her name, so I apologize for that. But Jennifer, would it be Jennifer that does that? So whoever signs off on it, I don't have any. Does anybody else want to comment on that? I mean, I don't want to give you something extra to do, and 25 is a big jump, but also today, $25,000 is not what it was 7 years ago.
An email is an easy thing to send out to the council.
You mean just a list of what you've done in those 30 days?
We are the people's money. It comes through us. So we should be able to answer to that if someone comes to us and said, your city manager spent $25,000 on this and this, and we know nothing about it. We should be at least aware of what's going on with the money.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, I did, and it may clog up the system, but it's better to err on the side that you have, Tom. I like the fact that you bring a lot of things to us, and yet I don't really have an issue with some stuff like this where maybe we can have a little bit more accountability so we hear about it, but it doesn't necessarily have to come up, in a public meeting and hash it out and all that, and have to wait for that period of time. So I'm good with that. This is not P cards. A lot of cities on up get in trouble with P cards and people having those, and they're buying this and that, and their wedding gifts and that sort of thing. So we have to be real careful with those. With this, but I don't want to bog you down. So you guys will have to give us feedback on if we're asking for something with some sort of, where it'd be in a report. I don't know how that should look.
Yeah. Could I just make this suggestion? Rather than making any change to the motion, maybe we would just ask that you come up with some sort of a system where, anything over, $10,000 that reaches into this new category, that you just have some kind of reporting through Jennifer. Let's just do it like that to start with, and if it looks like there's an issue, then we'll do something a little more formal. Would that work for you?
Works for me.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, and maybe something like once a month, not that you have to send us an email every time it happens. I mean, think about what doesn't bog you down too, because we don't do that. So we need to hear from you all.
All right, so is there any objection to making this consent number 13? All right, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. All right, let's do.
Thank you.
K3, increase police night shift differential. Go ahead.
Yes, so in an effort to continue improving our recruitment and retention for the police department, we are asking the council allow us to increase the night shift differentials. So currently, the officers who work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. get 50 cents extra per hour, but more than their day shift counterparts. We're proposing to increase that, this time with tiers. So I've put the number of officers that are budgeted. So currently, 12 officers, they get 50 cents extra an hour. This would go to $1 for the officers. Then above that, you see that we have 3 corporals budgeted that get the 50 cents extra. They would go to $1.25. And then sergeants, we have 3 budgeted also that work the night shift. Currently also only get 50 cents, make them $1.50. The purple line you see, that is the difference for a whole budget cycle, $23,000. This was not budgeted in the budget. However, we've already racked up that much and more dark time because we have positions that are not filled. So that's how I'm recommending it be covered. And if you have any specific questions, Chief is here to answer them.
So when we first started looking at this, we talked about whether or not we would approach it tiered or not tiered.
Right.
So the difference there was, do you just do a set amount for everybody on night shift, like $1, or do you tier it based on the positions? I believe that we should tier it. Since the time we talked about this, before this actually came up, I thought then that we probably were, a little short. We probably weren't being aggressive enough. And then I talked to a council member who told me a story about how they worked the overnight shift at Walmart when they were in college, and that was $1 back in the early 90s.
Wow.
So, early 2000s.
It was 2003.
I didn't
Not
want to
that
tell
old.
y'all who he was. but he started snickering as soon as I started talking.
19
but it
years
just
ago.
occurs to me that this is probably not only necessary, but may need to get looked at again, because we appreciate the work that these folks do. And the night shift is, I've worked that, not much, but a few times. That's a different life that you have to live when you're on the night shift. I mean, it changes everything. You're doing things on an opposite schedule of everybody. So I feel like we want to show these guys, as best we can. We can do it in other ways too, but I mean, this certainly helps too. Today, when we're still facing recruitment challenges, we're facing salary challenges, we're facing retention challenges. What's going on over there?
They didn't know there was a meeting.
Oh, okay.
And also,
so,
Mayor,
yeah.
when you and I talked the other day, I think this is the first time since I've been with the city that we are actually looking to hire corporals and sergeants outside of the department. In the past, we've been able to promote from within. So that's another reason to offer the
we're
tiered.
challenged here.
Yeah.
Okay, Council, do you have any questions? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't talk to Chief, but I did talk to Tom, and this is another example of if a citizen goes on and looks at this, they might be lacking some context, which you alluded to at the very end. I think it might be helpful for people to understand, and I wouldn't have had it if I hadn't called, okay, in that how this relates into supervisory positions and that sort of thing. I have people in the family that work 12-hour shifts with medical stuff, and it's a different world. When do you think most of your shooting victims and things like that come in? But not in police work, and it's a different, it's a different thing in the context that relates. So can somebody mention the context about how this relates to who's supervisor and who's experienced, and maybe the fact that we're reaching outside the local area to find these experienced officers? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, because you don't, yeah. And why this differential, sergeants, corporals, why this may all play into it also.
So we have a very young department. Obviously, we've had a lot of experienced people leave, one reason or the other.
Go ahead.
We've had some people, we've lost some sergeants, we've lost some other senior officers to other departments. Right now is the last year or so has been the time for people to move around because there's so many jobs out there. And like you guys said, we don't want to get in a bidding war with these agencies, but we do want to take care of what we have found is we want to take care of the people that are here now. We want to treat them right. We want to keep them. We want them to stay. So this is one way to do that. But it's also difficult to keep people on night shift because people like the normal life and they want to go to days and they want to be at home in the evenings with their family. And this is one way to help keep them on night shift because the pay differential is pretty substantial when you're talking $1.50 an hour extra. The other part of it is recruiting. We are trying to recruit lateral transfers where people will come from another agency as a sergeant or corporal to our department to help fill those vacancies quicker, have people with experience, have people with skills, have people with knowledge to bring them in. This would be another way to do that is by paying a little bit extra for the night shift differential. Because more than likely, whoever comes in is going to night shift. The gentleman we hired from California that wanted to get back to this side of the country will be on night shift. And so we hired him, and he will go straight on the nights, or has.
Does that get you? All right, Mr. Carter.
Is that
Okay.
substantial? Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm totally in agreement that you need to increase the differential for a night shift. In my 33 years' experience at Lockheed, we ran tests around the clock, and those that work nighttime got a differential. I don't agree that there ought to be a variance between corporals, officers, whoever. I think there ought to be a set amount, $1.50 differential for everybody. I don't see why you would defer between them because they make different salaries anyway. So they're going to make more money no matter what because they have a different pay grade. But I do believe that you do need to pay them more if they have to work an odd shift like that.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so Mike or Chief or Sarah, either one of you want to talk just a little bit about why the tiering might be important in terms of recruitment and these lateral moves from other agencies? You want to, either one of y'all want to address that?
Why would it be more important?
I think the main part is, like I said earlier, is we're trying to recruit these other people from other agencies, and with the understanding that they are going to go to nights, and so that little bit extra would help us be able to bring them in.
So, well, let me say it then a different way, because we talked about it. No, but one of the problems we still sort of struggle with here, that we're challenged with, is we still aren't right where we need to be with competitive agencies around us. We've already done increases, and some of our increases were fairly significant, but we still lack a little bit. So in order to be able to attract, we looked at doing this tiered thing because we need more supervisory positions to laterally come to Villa Rica, because we don't have them to promote from within. So that's why this is being looked at from this standpoint. Does that, I don't know if Mr. Carter
Yeah, if I could
better agrees, but at least you might understand.
add to
Go ahead.
that, my understanding was, because we have a lot of young people, not as much experience, just like you want a mentor or supervisory, somebody who hasn't had near as much experience on the street, maybe they need you don't want to promote too early, you want to have people too young, too inexperienced, being the supervisor. You want somebody with experience. So the way I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that that's part of the reason this is being done with sergeants and corporals, is that we lack those people with that kind of experience to put into those positions. And I don't know how else to say it other than we all know some things go down the street and here and there, and it matters to have experience. Sometimes when the officer's there, I'm probably making your argument, they call, depending on the situation going down and who they're with, they call whoever's above them to come. That's what happened in that city that I can't think of right now. And it matters who that person is that's coming in on a complicated situation. It's a reason they've been called. So that was a little bit of a sales pitch that I think I understood, having not been in the business, but just equating it to real life when they need somebody who we just don't have it. We have a lot of younger people and we've had a lot of people that have retired. They've not only gone elsewhere, but we've had experienced officers retire. They're gone now.
And what I would just
that's not to
one
say
more
yay
point.
or nay. Just
what I would also say, Mr. Carter, is in looking at that originally, I see exactly your point. I mean, they already have a pay differential, right, because of their position. So if you just did the night shift, it might be a solid number. But the recruitment from other agencies was the key there, that we knew we were going to have to meet those to be able to get that done. So, all right, Ms. McCoy.
So, Chief, if I understood your argument, is that we're trying to recruit sergeants and corporals from other agencies, but when they come in, they're going to have to go on night shift because they're technically newbies, even though they may have experience. So my thought process with that is that it would be hard to recruit people who might be on day shift already to come to a new place at night to take over nights without a little bit higher of a pay differential.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And
I was just trying to simplify a little bit.
And the thing that I want everybody to understand is it's not that we don't believe in the people that are here. It's like you said, they're just so young. They've not been on the street long enough to be ready for promotions or corporal. It's like bringing up a minor league pitcher and he's only pitched 1 year in the minors and you're going to bring him up. You can't do that. You've got to get them ready. You got to get them trained. And we've definitely hired some good quality people and I think we've got some great officers, but they've got to grow and learn.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 14?
Yes, there is.
Mr. Carr, you will object to
I
making
will.
this consent item? Okay. All right. Sarah, we'll move on to K4, contract with new probation agency. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, we have been with Intertech Probation Services for many years. Now the owner, who is Tommy Payne, is selling the business to CSRA Probation Services. They have proposed a 12-month agreement, which would start December 1st, 2022, to keep our services going. They looks like they do a lot with Georgia cities. They were founded in 1997 in Thompson, Georgia. They have 30 offices serving over 150 courts. They also have like a smartphone app and stuff, so it might be an upgrade for us. Staff recommends to go ahead and move forward so they can, again, keep the probation services going, and we can take a look at it next year and see how we like it.
Okay. All right. Council, do you have any questions for Sarah on this item? Okay. Is there any objection to making this consent number 14? All right, this seems easy. All right, let's do K5, Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Okay.
Who's doing that? You? All right, go ahead.
We talked about this several times during the budget. Recreation staff had requested a master plan for facilities. At the same time, the mayor was approached by the high school coach about a firm that does Parks and Rec program assessments. And the firm that he recommended does both. So we reached out to that firm. Brandstetter Carroll Inc. is the company. When we talked to them, they were actually wrapping up projects in Roswell and Thomasville, and they've previously worked with Noonan. Basically, they would evaluate our facilities citywide, but also the programming that goes with it. They would work with us stakeholders, which includes the council and some other community folks, and help us to look forward to the future. It's $92,000 for both components of that. Staff is recommending approval.
And this item was budgeted and had some discussion back during the budget process. Is there any questions for Sarah? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, it's been a little while since the budget time. Okay, so I understand they do both, and I remember asking back then, okay, they're looking at our facilities, what we have to offer, but also the programming, which was the separate study, right? Two different ones, programming and then facilities, which would include all our parks. How much do they get in the weeds on things if we're talking about the Connors Road Park or something like that? To what degree do they?
They would be looking at that because they'll be looking at the future, and that will be one of our future parks. So, yeah, I think that'll definitely be one on the table that they'll be considering.
And I would imagine facilities, as far as how things are distributed across the city in different areas. I'm gonna knock this mic off one of these times. Okay, all right, I'm good.
All right, any other questions?
I just want to
All
say
right,
I'm
Mr. Montana.
very happy this is finally come. I've been on this since 2019, I think. So I think probably, I don't know, maybe I'm not sure about Councilwoman McCoy's ward, but I feel like just from a demographic standpoint, my ward probably makes the most use of the Parks and Rec Department. I think we probably have most of the younger families in my ward. So very excited about this. Looking forward to see what the results are. So thank you, staff, for bringing this to us finally.
All right, any other questions? Okay, is there any objection to making this consent number 15?
Thank you.
All right, hearing no objections. Thank you, Sarah. Move on to Tom. L1, approval of addendum number 23 with Carter and Sloop to design the north bypass water line. Go ahead.
As you know, the North Bypass GDOT project went to bid in April and was awarded this summer to the Astra Group. That is a road-only construction project. We have begun to meet every 3 weeks or so to coordinate utility relocation on both ends of the road where the roundabouts are going to go. And during those conversations, we have had talks about when and how the city should install a water line along that new road. The consensus of all the utility guys and the contractors is that we should design that project and then have the contractor that's building the road also lay the line for us at the same time, so that when we are cutting ditches and putting utilities in them, we can do that all at once. Carter and Sloop is the company that we selected, I don't even know what year, maybe in 18 or so, to work with us on our water projects. They've done all the water plant work and water line design, and so we're recommending that we have them design this project. We intend for the actual construction to be financed with a GFA loan and then paid back over time out of the water and sewer fund. But this initial design we would probably float part of this ourselves, and then at some point we would start applying this to a GFA loan.
All right, council, any questions for Tom?
Tom, my question would be, what about sewer also? Would we not have engaged them to design sewer on there?
No, Brennan does all the
that's
sewer,
right.
and we've not started down that track yet. It's not as where the sewer runs is more a function of where the creeks are.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the water line, though, it's going to follow the road, so we can tie the two together.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Ms. McPherson?
if you would expand briefly on the gamble between when to do this. No, when you read the impact, it's like, well, usually if you do it while you're putting it in a road, while you're already working over there, it's save money, but cost is so high on everything. And yet, so we take advantage of falling material prices, but then they could also increase. And I don't know how soon we'll order these things. You know what I'm saying? It's a gamble, isn't it? I mean, personally, there's things I'm not buying right now. I'm basically saying to Mike, let's just wait for it to crash, and we'll buy when everything crashes. Because, right, who wants to buy a new vehicle right now? That's if you can get it. There's certain things that are just so high, you're like, we might as well just put it off and wait till the inflation goes down or whatever.
The catch-22, and again, we don't know. I mean, we're guessing. Is you've got the variability in price and you have the delivery issue. But there's also the same issue with the whole installation. So as a principle, installing the water line when you're doing the road would save you money, unless, like in this circumstance, there's a possibility that cost of construction could go way down. Right? So I don't know, but I think we got to go ahead.
It's the safest way.
Well, I mean, this is my recommendation, and I'm telling you, I did not have a crystal ball. So I don't know what prices are going to do. I don't know what material availability is going to do. I know that there is a distinction now between the availability of some things that we buy from others. I can't say that any of it's getting better per se, but some of the stuff that's really hard to get has gotten harder to get, which is scary. So I'm recommending that we move ahead with this. We may look back and go, well, we could have saved $5 a foot on the pipe or something, but
Yeah, but that's different with a want. I think you made the argument because this is not a want, this is a need, it has to go in. The bypass is coming, yay. And if it gets to where we can't get stuff and it gets worse, then you got a problem. You got people you're paying, they're sitting there and they can't get the job done. So, I don't know.
Tom, I'm sorry. So, but this is just for design. So one way or another, it has to be designed. I mean,
Yep.
Right. So, we could get the design and it could be done, and then we could maybe have a better idea where the economy's at. And also, there's also potential that, once you build the North Bypass, if there's some development or something like there, they could help fund part of it too. I just think kind of like, we're talking about design tonight, so I don't want to put the cart too far before the horse. But I totally agree with Councilman McPherson, but I don't want to kind of lose that.
yeah, we
part.
still need
Yeah.
the crystal ball. We just
Okay,
Don't
since
have
this
it.
is design, how long is it gonna take to design this?
months. Yeah, months. So we need to get on with it. Because they're stacked. I mean, they've got not just this to do, even for us, but they have a lot of other clients too. So,
All right,
everybody's trying to get in line.
Is there any other questions? Nope. Okay. Is there any objection to making this consent number 16? No. All right, let's do L2, approval of proposal to design and upgrade to North Avenue. Tom?
At this point in time, we have designed the upgrade to Cleghorn Anderson. That is the only one that's complete. We are designing the Mirror Lake Connector. We're designing the Punkintown Road upgrade. We're designing the Old Stone Road upgrade. I might be missing one, but anyway, so the next one in the process is to start working on North Avenue. North Avenue is going to be terribly difficult. The right-of-way is too narrow. There's big oak trees right on the road, small front yard. This will be one of our main north-south arteries in the city when this is redone.
All right. Council, do you have any questions for Tom? Ms. Marchman?
This will start where? This is whole North Avenue from to the hospital?
Yeah, maybe not that north block that got cut off. You want the one that we were going to rename above Old Town, or maybe not that one block, but
to
coming up to 61.
I mean 61.
Yes, ma'am.
All the way to, okay.
All right.
Ma'am.
Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this to show up on here. It's a little scary when you say a major artery, but this is the area where we joke about not being able to take a shower while and flush the toilet in the house at the same time. I mean, this is critical. And these people are you told me it's gonna be a nightmare. When they tear up that road, it's gonna be a nightmare for them, but those old this needs to happen. So I don't know how we're gonna do all the tree thing, but moving trees, taking stuff. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I guess I'll see. Strong.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 17? Okay. That'll be consent number 17. Okay. So I'm going to go over the consent agenda, but let me just say, I know you've already heard it said, but public comments needs to show up on the work session agenda, and the primary reason is I don't want there to be any misunderstandings in the public about whether or not the consent agenda as I have it on my notes, and when I'm done, I'll ask if anybody hears anything different or if they want, if I need to pull something off. All right. Consent number 1, contract between city, okay, yeah. Contract between city and CVB for distribution of funds pursuant to hotel motel tax. Consent number 2, purchase F-150 for code enforcement. Consent number 3, addendum to the PAYCOM Human Resources Information System. Consent number 4, 2022 Downtown Development Authority appointment, as is in the backup. Consent number 5, AV system upgrade at Vplex. Consent number 6, fill a vacancy of the Villa Rica Recreation Advisory Commission, as is in the backup. Consent number 7, purchase and deploy 5 additional Axon Taser 7 electric control weapons for use in the police department. Consent number 8, solid waste pickup change from weekly to bi-weekly or 2 pickups per month. Consent number 9, water system tank maintenance agreement. Consent number 10, lead and copper monitoring rules service agreement. Consent number 11, North Plant solids handling chamber design. Consent number 12, approve new city clerk. Consent number 13, purchasing authority for staff. Consent number 14, contract with new probation agency. Consent number 15, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Consent number 16, approval of addendum number 23 with Carter and Sloop to design north bypass water line. Consent number 17, approval of proposal to design and upgrade to North Avenue. Does anyone hear anything different or have any objections to these items being on the consent agenda? All right, hearing no objections, Madam Clerk, that will be the consent agenda. Please prepare that for tonight. Move items B, 4, and 5 off of the agenda. And now I will open this up for public comment. Okay. And when I did that, I had the feeling that that probably is where that should have been, but anyway. So I'll just open up for public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in public comments? I want to recognize Dr. Bernice Brooks here. She's the school board member representing Villa Rica. Well, there's 2 of them, but she, long-term school board member. Thank you for being here. Do you want to speak? No? Okay. Does anybody want to speak in public comments? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments. Tom, you have anything? David? All right,